spook easily stung.
Have you ever explored the depths of fear? Have you ever wondered what depravity dwells within the imagination of a storyteller that prompts them to exhume horrors untold and expose those horrors to unsuspecting audiences? Some are repulsed, and some are shaken. However, there are those who are invigorated. So to those demented souls, we invite you to journey inward into the dark bowels of human imagination. Press play, and you will discover what's in the podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, we made it. We made it through another year, and funny enough, we didn't think we would. We didn't think we would, but here we are in the opposition of a fascistic government, in opposition of a stupid-ass document that said it was by the end of the year it was going to get rid of us. But here we are, bitches. Here we are saluting another year of horror. Here we are for our third annual Belial Awards here on What's in the Podcast. And much like the prior two, we have brought back our good friend, Matt Konopka, Killer Horror Critic. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me. I'd like to start off by saying fuck fascists, fuck Nazis, fuck Trump, fuck anyone trying to get rid of horror movies, fuck all of that.
Yep, fuck all of that. We are not going to be silenced that fucking easily. And the best part is, Stuart Gordon, and I believe I've quoted this before, but Stuart Gordon has noted that there is a kind of interesting relationship to the idea that the shittier the times get, the better the horror movies get. And
Yeah.
with that in mind, how has 2025 been, in your opinion, when it comes to horror?
You know, this is one of the few years of recent memory that I actually feel like I have less of a grasp than I usually do, if I'm being perfectly honest. Because I went through, so the last few months I have missed so much because I just went through like one thing after another where it was like I had I don't know if it was COVID, but I was really sick for a few weeks. I tore my hamstring, so that like
Ugh.
kept me from going out for a while. And then just like work and other events, like I have not seen as much as I would like to in the last few months. But
Oh.
that being said, I've seen a lot of movies that I loved. I don't know that 2025 was quite as strong for me personally as the last couple years, but it was still another great year.
Hmm.
And and I will say like the ones that are close to the top for me are just fucking astonishing. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely feel you on that because this for me is also another year where life came at me with its pants down.
yeah,
Yeah, with I mean, this year my car got broke into at the beginning of the year.
great way to
Um,
start.
yeah, and then right at the tail end of Spooky Empire, my car broke down again, and now I have to basically pay off $3,500 worth of repairs, and I'm still gonna
Fun.
be paying that bitch off. So that's just fun. On top of the fact I'm still paying off the damn thing. So yeah, and when I've asked around to everyone, it seems like that's kind of been the theme of the entire year for everybody.
It,
So it
Yeah, it's been an asshole year. I mean, I don't know if you remember,
yeah.
but for me personally, like 2025 started off with the Los Angeles fires.
Right. That's right. You guys had the
Like that
fires.
was my first week of 2025.
Yeah, yeah, the fires going on. I remember my interview with David Weiner, we were talking like literally the fires were like raging like only a couple miles from him.
Oh yeah, they
Yeah,
were
while we
just
were doing that
they
interview.
were a mile
Yeah.
from me. I spent like
Yeah.
3 days keeping an eye on fire alerts, wondering if I had to evacuate.
Yeah. I no, and I remember I think I was checking in with you. I was checking in with Ivatries and checking in with my friend
Yep.
Tal checking in with Tally
Mm.
out there just to check on you all. I was worried about you all. So I'm just glad that things didn't get that bad, but I know it got bad for a lot of other people.
It
So
did, and I'm grateful for, getting out of that, and very sad for everybody else. But
yeah.
at least we're here. We made it to the end of the
Yeah.
year.
We're here. And like you said, well, and I think the one thing that's astonishing is that when horror hit, it hit big this year. I mean, we had
Oh
a
yeah.
ton that when they came, they fucking roared. And
Mm.
and rest assured, we will be talking about a lot of them this right here on this set this third annual Belial Awards.
Is horror back?
Horror
I just
never left.
I know. I just always laugh every
Yeah.
time I see one of those headlines after a big
Oh,
box office move.
oh yeah. Like, well, in one of the like the mundane publications, like like Forbes or
Mm,
Variety, the people who just really aren't qualified to talk about this. I mean, funny enough, I actually got a chance to go to an advanced screening of Avatar, and there was a YouTuber there, younger than me, but smug little bastard. Not a asshole or anything, but when I told him that my leitmotif is mainly horror, he's like saying, "Oh, you mean horror when it's good?" And I'm like, I was about to unload on
excuse
him and
me?
give. I'm like, that tells me you are a person who really does not do their goddamn research because I'm
Yeah.
sorry. And not only that, how can you not notice the fact that some of the biggest box office hits this year that actually have been actively discussed for awards consideration? In fact, some, as of recording, just got announced for getting a pretty good amount of Golden Globe nominations.
Yep, yep. I just reported on that
Yeah,
the other day. Quite a few got
yeah.
nominated.
So on a prestige level, horror has done insanely well,
Mm,
but here we are with our little humble little award show giving
yes,
giving it to all horror. So no
yes.
time like the present. So as everyone recalls, both for those who recall the previous years, we have created our own specific list of categories that we have thrown into the mix. Of course, some are pretty conventional, but others we like to throw in as like weird ass awards for shits and giggles. But both you and I have our own wins. Sometimes, many times, hilariously, we meet in the middle. So part of the wonderful suspense that we have with our little dynamic is that many times we agree and we don't realize we do until right that moment. So,
Mhm.
uh, but for the first award, this is something we honestly should have been doing since the first one, but one I'm going to make a tradition every now and then. Because as the year goes on and we get so many horror films that come and go, we tend to forget the stuff that comes out at the beginning of the year. And
Yep.
I decided to remedy that with the award for the first great horror movie of the year, like the one at the start of the year that we said, all right, this is the one that's kicking off our year in horror. So, Matt, for you, what was the first great horror film of the year?
So this is slightly cheating for me because I saw a screening of it in December, right before January. So, but it did come out in January, so
Okay.
it still
Yeah, so
works.
we'll lay out the no, I was gonna say if it officially comes out widespread to the public, we will not count festival screenings if it was like the one when
Yeah,
it arrived in the theaters.
yeah. So it still came out in January, I believe, but I'm gonna go with Steven Soderbergh's Presence.
Okay.
That's so that movie, that it's not. It's not one of those where I'm like, man, I gotta sit down and watch The Presence again, over and over again. But I thought it was a really just interesting experiment, kind of following this perspective of a ghost throughout the entire film. And to be perfectly honest too, like I had lost a good friend of mine not long before that movie, so
Right.
it just really kind of hit me in a profound way.
Excellent.
And it's just sort of stuck with me ever since then. So for me, that was the first one that like really hit me on a few different levels.
Yeah, no, that is a fantastic choice, and that is one I definitely urge people to watch strictly on a filmmaking level because it's a film that has a premise and to its credit really minds it to the peak potential in terms of concept. And I
Yeah.
will say the twist definitely took me off. Like it took me a bit. I was able to guess it maybe like a couple seconds before, but I'm still going to count it as saying this is a great twist. This is a twist that
Oh yeah.
legitimately works.
Yeah.
Um, I think for me, the only thing that didn't keep it in my top or anything like that was the fact that I feel like it could have leaned a little harder um into the horror side of it. I mean, it was more focused on being a poignant human drama. I felt like you have
It,
some wiggle room that you could lean a bit more into actually being a little creepy.
yeah, it's one of those where like I don't necessarily hold it against the film itself because that clearly like wasn't the intention was to be
Exactly.
scary. But my personal taste is like, yeah, I would have liked to have seen, a little more horror in that regard. But I think
Hmm.
as far as what the film wants to do, I think it exceeded there.
Yeah, I think that's why I forgive it, is because it's clear that what the film's intentions are, and I'm like, I'm not going to begrudge it that. That being said, somewhere down the line, I'd like to see someone tackle the concept, but with a malevolent spirit. next
Yes,
time.
I would love to see the concept with just a hardcore horror angle.
Yeah, precisely. But for me, the one that came out at the beginning of the year that immediately, and I had no problem proclaiming giving this one the trophy, was a film that unfortunately no one's talking about now, and it's a shame. But it's a movie called The Damned
Mm.
that came out earlier this year. That was a gorgeous freaking movie
Yeah,
right there.
it's a good film, and the thing I will say for it is that it did get some buzz when it came out because we were still early
Mhm.
in the year, and so it was kind of the first like I remember a lot of people proclaiming like this is the first like really good horror movie of the year. So it at least got the attention it deserved then, but yeah, I don't hear anybody talking about it now.
Yeah, I mean, for obvious reasons. I mean, because again, because a lot of the stuff we'll talk about later on kind of buried it. But I
Yeah,
definitely urge everyone that The Damned is definitely a legit great film that is, in many terms of its setting, in terms of its concept, even in terms of its characters, was remarkably fresh and definitely stuff took place in a world in a period of time that doesn't really get to talked about very often. And I was so impressed with it.
yeah, and it's a good time to watch it too if you haven't seen it because it's that ghostly, wintry horror story, which is
Yeah.
perfect for right now. So
Exactly. Now's a great time for it. But but now there is now for our next category, people say, the scariest movie. And we have seen so many horror films that it's really hard for us to gauge what is truly scary. And but I like to say there's a separation between scary and creepy. Scary
agreed.
to me is something that like rocks you to your fucking core, that like shakes you up and makes you feel shake like absolutely freaking disturbed. Creepy is
Mm.
just that thing where you're just like, what's going on?
Hmm.
I'm feeling weird.
Get a
Okay,
get a little tingle down your
you get a little
spine.
tingle down your spine kind of thing. So, for you, what was your pick for the creepiest horror film of the year?
Best wishes to all. And
Yeah,
granted,
oh yeah.
there's a few that I could have put into this category, but I wanted to give a shout out to Best Wishes of All because it's not on my top 10, but I did think that it was a really unique, kind of fascinating horror film. First time director too, his first feature,
Hmm.
and it's just really unnerving, just
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No, that one probably would have been my pick, because man, that one just in terms like the story, even just the visual execution, everything about that film was just legitimately unsettling in all the right ways.
yeah,
But the one that I have to give it to, and I did an interview with the lead of it earlier this year. It means a lot to me when I walk out of a movie theater where I feel absolutely like when even the theater itself, as I leave, is creeping me out
yeah.
after watching a film. But the one that actually had the biggest impact on me, and it's not even the best horror film of the year, but it's one that had a profound effect on me. It's Traumatica. I mean,
Mm,
that was a film that was so rich in its atmosphere, and even just with the imagery it assaults you with, and because of the fearless ass performance by Rebecca Kennedy, not Rebecca McKendry, Rebecca Kennedy. Too many
I was gonna
Rebeccas.
say I don't
Sorry,
remember McKendry starring in a film this year.
I'm sorry. I got my Rebecca's mixed up. Rebecca, I love Rebecca Kennedy. I love you to death. Sorry, sorry, sorry. You know what it is? You know what it is? I just watched and All the Creatures Are Stirring
Ah, yes,
recently, and
that'll do it.
Rebecca. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I had her in my head recently. Also, just because
A film that itself is creepy at times.
exactly. But Traumatica. I mean, apart from the fact that the film does a great job, talking about unresolved trauma, the film still attacks you with some pretty damn intense imagery. And I
Yeah.
got a chance to watch this sucker in an empty theater, like in the dark.
Mm,
And even when the lights came up in the theater, it shook me to a point where I was terrified to even stand up. But I was terrified to stand up in the theater. But then at the same time, I'm like, I need to get the fuck out of the theater right now
yeah.
because it was so quiet and it was just one of those ones that hit me on a visceral level that just made me go, this is working for me. The movie works.
This is one where I'm kicking myself because I still haven't seen it, and I'm really kicking myself because I wrote about it for Dread when the trailer came out. So
Hmm.
so it had my attention, and I just haven't gotten to it yet. But
Yeah.
my comment I will add is for those who haven't seen it, it is a really interesting approach to the possession genre, right? Because if I remember
Yes.
correctly, it's from the point of view of a child watching their mother become possessed, yes?
Yeah. That
More or
is
less.
that. Well, it is. Yeah, I believe it is. Yeah, it is. I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I saw it, but I remember it was definitely a child. I think it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was the child's mother watching this as it's happening, and even worse, that the child gets kidnapped by the mother
Yeah, so
and gets hidden
it
away.
just
It's
yeah, it looked like you said, like very visceral, very shocking, very
yeah,
intense.
yeah,
Anytime you're
and
telling a hardcore horror story like that from a point of view of a child, you're always a little extra on edge.
hmm oh yeah, and this one has no reluctances about going to some pretty dark ass places. And I will
Yeah.
say, and Rebecca Kennedy fearlessly does a lot of stuff that I know a lot of other actresses would be very timid to go. And honestly, she's a spectacular actress, and I want to see more of her in so many different things down the line.
Mm.
So yeah, that is my pick. So next up, but on the higher degree, now as much as I talk about Traumatica being a film that affected me on a creepy level, it's not the film that wigged me out or that actually made me freak out and just made me uncomfortable. So what was the film that you would say is the scariest film you've seen this year?
So, I will admit, I don't know that anything like truly scared me this year. Things had their moments, but I think the film that most maybe shocked me or got under my skin at times was probably Weapons, just because there's a real intensity to moments of that film, and there's specific imagery that I just haven't been able to shake, like
Hmm
I forget the actor's name, but when he's running towards our main character at the gas station and his eyes
Oh,
are
Benedict
just
Wong, yeah.
yeah,
Benedict Wong,
and his
yeah.
eyes are just, super wide and doing that little
Yeah.
airplane run and everything. It just there was a lot of freaky imagery in that and some really good moments of suspense that definitely had me on edge, like when the junkie kid is sitting in the car and we see the door open and we don't know what's about to happen, or the main character's also sitting in the car outside and we see the woman sneak up to cut her hair with the scissors, just there was a lot of good stuff in that. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. No, Weapons is a wonderful film, but for me, the one that just for the sheer level of discomfort, practically from the start that the film arrives, even though it keeps trying to assure you that, oh no, it's a good atmosphere and it's a good place. And
Mm,
even with Sally Hawkins, who commonly has played like really gentle, benevolent characters in Shape of Water and in Paddington,
yeah.
all of a sudden you see her in fucking Bring Her Back and seeing just how goddamn like hell bent she is to resurrect her kid by way of doing the sick ass shit that she does throughout that entire movie and doing
Mm.
it to a pair of innocent kids who really are already on edge because of the dark ass shit they went through even prior to getting there. That was a film that was just merciless to me. I mean, that was just a film that just attacked me.
Yeah, it's merciless. It's one where like it didn't scare me, but it gutted the shit out of me. Like
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I felt like a pumpkin having my guts scooped out with that movie.
Yeah. I
In a good
mean,
way, in a good way.
oh yeah, in all the best ways possible. I mean, I will say this now. I mean, I'm already like going, why the hell would you feed someone a freaking melon with a knife? But even so, it's like just
Well, you don't
and
expect them to eat the knife as well.
well, here's the thing. I kind of thought he did because I was already seeing him doing like mouth related shit. And that's the
Mm.
thing. I love the fact that the Philippines carrying on from the great work they did with Talk to Me. Again, here's another movie that has absolutely no problem mutilating mutilating characters and even kids just because he knows that they know the damn important thing about horror is that you got to go there.
And you know the fascinating thing to me about the Philippines is that if you go back and you watch their YouTube channel, like
Oh,
all the
Raka
stuff,
Raka. Yeah.
yeah, Rock, all the stuff that they did before Talk to Me and Bring Her Back, it's so fucking funny. Like they do the funniest shit on that channel, and you would never expect that these two would deliver just the most gutting, brutal, traumatic horror movies of the last few years. And yet they do. Like it's just so
Yeah.
surprising to me that they went from just extreme goofy comedy horror to this.
Well, isn't that well, that's honestly when you think about a lot of the directors who shine this year, that's not really that weird. I mean, because
It's
again,
true.
Zach Kreger came from The Whitest Kids You Know, if I'm not mistaken, and then
Mm,
Josh Rubin, with Dropout, all of a sudden proved his worth in horror as well. So it's kind of like
yeah.
Yeah, it just goes to show it's what I've always said, comedy and horror, the two genres that are honestly the hardest to really break through in because you gotta stand out.
Well, the hardest
And
to do
it's
individually and
yeah,
extremely difficult to merge the two
yeah.
successfully.
And very appropriately are we talking about comedy because our next category is the category of comedy horror.
Mm,
The horror films this year that have been able to masterfully combine the two to create something that is, that gives it a life singular compared to a lot of other horror films that come out every year. So for you, what was the best comedy horror?
well, speaking of Josh Rubin, Hard Eyes.
Oh,
I loved Hard Eyes.
yeah,
Like to me, so you combine, I mean, you combine rom-com with like early aughts, bloody, gory as hell slasher, and it just like that's me. That's what I love.
yeah.
And
Oh,
so
yeah.
for me, that's already going to become an annual watch. I have no doubt that it will be considered a horror classic down the line at some point.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh yeah. I will be talking at length about Hard Eyes in the time to come, but you are
yeah.
100% right. It is a great frick. In fact,
Like
we
it's
will be
just
doing a
so fucking joyful. It's just so
yeah,
joyful. Despite
yeah.
like it has some of the nastiest gore of the year, but it's so just delightful.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's a film that on one side decides to be a great slasher, but it also is legitimately sincere in its endeavors to be a great romantic comedy with
Yeah.
two very charismatic and very appealing leads. I mean, of course, you got Mason Gooding, who we already know and love from the Scream movies,
Fantastic in this movie.
just being
Yep.
infinitely charming, and the best part was, I actually recently got to meet both Josh Rubin and Michael Kennedy, and the major thing they said is like, yeah, we love romantic comedies as much as we love horror, and it shows.
Yep.
It
Oh
really
yeah, no,
shows.
anytime you can like pack a film full of rom-com references and slasher references and
Oh
it
yeah.
works as well as it does, like I'm just it's been almost a year since it came out. I'm still impressed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it says a lot when you have a great slasher movie that makes you go, I need to watch His Girl Friday.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And that one would have been my top of the year, horror comedy of the year. But this one I'm giving it to because the director, you would never know he was capable of it given his prior track record. And you should have known because his previous outing actually had a little bit of humor in it. But for me, the best horror comedy of the year was The Monkey,
Yeah. And,
easily.
well, so I'll let you say your thoughts on the monkey first before I jump
Yeah.
in.
Well, just for the simple fact, well, first off, when it comes to Osgood Perkins, this was a major flex on his part because prior to my knowledge, I don't remember him ever doing a movie even remotely like this.
Yeah.
But I lovingly call this movie, it's kind of like what would happen if Wes Anderson wrote a Final Destination movie. I mean,
Yeah, I can see that.
yeah, that is to me because, and even more so, just I love any kind of comedy where the characters have no perceivable filter, where they're going to say like wild, crazy, fucked up shit because that's what's on their mind, and they're not saying it because they're reluctant about anything like that. But I loved the language of the movie. I love the way that and I love that a lot of the humor just comes about because you have characters saying things that most people in regular human speech would never say because they're for fear of sounding like an asshole or just because but here you have great freaking moments where a priest walks up and goes, "Oh fuck,"
Yeah.
or people just like casually talking about death and just going, "Oh wow, that sucks." Because I'm like,
Mm.
unfortunately, in people's heads, that's how people actually sound when someone who they barely talk to, or someone who they don't really care about in normal life, will say like, "Oh, someone died," and they'll just go, "Oh wow, that sucks."
Yeah. Well, so two things on the monkey. One, I think and I agree with you, by the way, that it's a great horror comedy. But I do think it's funny that we both think that, and yet I remember when the monkey came out, I saw so many criticisms from people of like, Oz Perkins can't do comedy. And I was just sitting there reading comments like that, like, what? What do you mean he can't do? This was hilarious. Like,
Yeah, I'm
uh, so
sorry.
so like
Yeah.
I wasn't really sure, what wasn't connecting for others in that regard. with the film. But the other thing I want to say is that, the monkey to me has it was one of my favorite films of the year because, like, not just because of the content of the film itself, but just the fact that, to me, the monkey sort of symbolize kind of what I took as an overall message from the genre this year, because we had a really strong year for the horror comedy.
Hmm.
And while I could certainly be wrong on this, I sort of took that as, as the genre sort of saying like, "Hey guys, everything sucks right now, but you just gotta enjoy life. You just gotta put on a smile, get through your day, and keep fucking living."
Yeah.
And the reason I really got that from the monkey is because the whole theme of the monkey really is like, stop sitting around and fucking worrying about death and just go enjoy your life. People die. People are going to die. You're going to die. Your best friends are going to die. Everyone's going to die. You
Yeah. Stop trying
can't
to
let that
control death.
stop trying to
Yeah.
control it. You can't let that rule your life. Because the main character,
Hmm.
like his biggest flaw is he lets death run his entire life. He misses out on the relationship with his son.
Yeah.
It ruins his marriage, or I can't remember if he was married or not. I think he was married.
Yeah. He was
Yeah.
married. He was married.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So it ruins that whole thing. And I just took it as like, everybody dies, guys. You just gotta accept that and move
Yeah.
on and enjoy yourself. You only got one
Precisely.
life.
Exactly. All right. Now, previously, I was going to do categories of like best slasher, best ghost movie, but I was realizing that would just segue to more categories that were going to like take up a
Yeah.
lot of runtime. So I decided to separate them into two simple categories, supernatural and non-supernatural. So just keep it very, very simple.
Hmm.
So for you, what was your pick for the best supernatural horror film of the
Yeah,
year?
I mean this was an easy one, Sinners.
Oh yeah.
It's I
I
could, yeah. That movie
yeah.
blew me away. Just blew me away. Like,
Well, the best
good.
Yeah, the thing I was gonna say, the best thing about Sinners is that it's supernatural for the ways you think, but then it becomes supernatural for things that end up lending a lot to the undercurrents of the film, especially with the racial undercurrents and the thematic undercurrents of the film. The
Yeah,
supernatural doesn't just isn't just limited to the fact that, oh, hey, there's vampires in this.
right. Well, and this is a major reason why, like, I wanted to invite everyone who claimed that it was just a ripoff from Dusk Till Dawn. I wanted to invite them to sit on a twirling lawnmower,
Fuck
because it
that.
just
Yeah, fuck that. Yeah, I hate people who try to put that shit out. I'm like going, fuckers, two things. One, you haven't watched From Dusk Till Dawn. One.
yeah.
Two, no, it's not. And three, From Dusk Till Dawn did not talk about even half the shit that this movie talked about.
Well, and this is what always annoys me with this kind of stuff. And I see it from a lot of creatives too, where like I don't know if this is a new thing or if this has always been a thing, but people seem to have this inherent fear of making anything creatively that is even in the least possible way, like similar to something else, or and then there's the people who judge things that are creative by saying like, oh, your thing is vaguely similar to this other thing, therefore your thing sucks. And
Yeah.
I hate that because
Yeah.
we're all influenced by everything that we see. There are, like, think about the slasher genre itself. Every slasher, every single slasher, just about, is based on relatively the same premise, just with
Yeah.
little key differences here and there. And so
Yeah.
to take a film like Sinners, something that is so fucking breathtaking and thematically just voluptuous. Like, there's so much to
Yeah.
chew on with this film, to take it and knock it down to nothing more than a knockoff of, frankly, a pretty immature but fun movie. Like, it just, you know, it really pisses me
Yeah.
off. Like,
I have a theory also that I have a pretty damn controversial theory. I think anyone who says that shit,
yeah.
they don't like it for they don't like it for other reasons,
Oh, I don't
but
think that's a
they
very controversial theory. I think that.
Yeah,
Word. Yeah,
I'm pretty
that
sure.
would make
Yeah,
sense.
I'm pretty sure they just don't like it for other reasons, but
Yeah.
they know damn well they can't say those reasons.
Now I want to be clear, like it's perfectly fine if you didn't like the movie, you know. Everyone has their own opinions. Just don't say that it's nothing more than a ripoff from Dusk Till Dawn. Like
Yeah,
put a little more
well,
thought into it.
even on a level of technicality, from Dusk Till Dawn, they go to the nest of vampires. But in the case of Sinners, no, the vampires besiege them. If anything, it is a siege film. From Dusk Till
Yep.
Dawn, not a siege film.
Yep.
Two different type of things. Yeah. So, ah, rest assured, we will be talking more about Sinners down the line. But for
Oh
me,
yeah.
my pick for best supernatural, I'm picking it because this is a film that makes you think it is doesn't even remotely make you think in the beginning that it's a supernatural film until it plays its cards. And this is a low-key amazing film that came out the same weekend as Weapons, and I watched them both in a double feature. But Strange Harvest.
Mm.
Strange Harvest is my pick for best supernatural film because this is a film that you think is going to be in the same camp as uh, mockumentaries like the Poughkeepsie Tapes or Lake Mungo or Megan is Missing, where you think it's just going to be a chronicle of of the path of a serial killer. But the great thing about this movie is that it low key introduces the idea that this killer isn't just doing this for homicidal mania or anything like that. They're doing it because there is a supernatural undercurrent through his crimes. And you're wondering and the great thing about this movie is that it plays with you, making you think, is this guy just insane? Is he doing this because he just is fully aware of the constellations and the celestial turnings of everything? Is he just doing this because of that?
Mm.
But then the movie play, and this might be a light spoiler, but the film plays it and it reveals, no, this is bona fide. This is actually a bona fide supernatural happenstance that he is incurring with this decades long killing spree. Not even killing spree, just serial murder journey that they're going on. And even better is that the film really shows how nasty this killer's crimes are that and you feel the desperation of all the police who have been long investigating it because they see the grisly nature of these murders and they're terrified about the possibility that if this is real, that what this killer is doing, that this might lead into something far worse and how desperate they are to catch them. But Strange Harvest is a film that stayed with me consistently. And beyond that, just the iconography of Mr. Shiny is another thing that just
Mm.
really stayed with me. But that's a film that just I hope more people get a chance to see down the line because I think it deserves to be spoken about in the same breath as the Poughkeepsie Tapes, Megan is Missing, and Lake Mungo.
Okay. I mean that's some high praise. This is another one that I missed, but if you're telling me it's, you know, up there with Lake Mungo, like I'm definitely curious.
Oh yeah, please do. So all right, so now we've gotten that. I'm going to go ahead and lead with the next one for non-supernatural since we've already
Mm.
talked about it at length. But my pick for non-supernatural is Hard Eyes.
Yeah.
Easily. Just sometimes you just love yourself a good old-fashioned guy with a knife running rampant. And to me, Hard Eyes on that level, and it may also just be association bias, one of the awards that we're going to announce later, but Hard Eyes very much on the top of the tier for me for pretty much everything that we already mentioned before. So that's my
Yeah.
pick for best non-supernatural.
Yeah, and we've already talked about it at length, so I will just add for Hard Eyes, Josh Rubin for me at this point, 3 for 3 with horror.
Exactly.
Scare Me, Werewolves Within, Hard Eyes, all three have ended up on my top 10. Spoiler for my top 10 list, but all three have ended up on my top 10 list in their respective years. Like Josh Rubin, you've become one of my favorite filmmakers currently
Pretty
working,
much.
man.
Yeah. Not only is he one of my favorite, and I'm so happy, obviously, from the success of Hard Eyes, he's already gotten another project that he's already going to be working on soon. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
just
I am
keep
so happy for him. Just keep it
just
coming.
keep going, Josh. You're killing it, man.
Yeah. All right.
Um,
So, what
so
is your pick for, yeah, for
Yeah,
non-supernatural?
so I don't so this is one of the few books from him that I haven't read, so I didn't really know what to expect, and so I wasn't expecting it to blow me away as much as it did, but
Oh,
The Long Walk I thought was just
oh,
fantastic. Like that movie was just such an emotional journey for me.
man. Yeah.
That like it breaks you, and yet at the same time, like really makes you feel joy in like the good parts of humanity, you know? Like you have these kids, and between all of these kids and the soldiers that are following them, you see the best and worst of humanity, and it's just an emotional film that I found myself like crying over and over again.
Oh yeah. No, now, in hindsight, I should have done a category for most tear-jerking horror film because it would have been this one, no question.
Yeah.
Because yeah, this
Yeah, no
I,
question.
I'm w- yeah, I'm with you 100%. The Long Walk freaking wrecked me in so many of the right ways.
Yeah, and it's
It
just such a perfect movie for our time too, you know, speaking of like
exactly.
fascism and the divide between all of us, and you know, it's
Hmm.
such a great film. I really hope that more people watch it and take its messaging to heart.
Absolutely. That being said, the one thing I do intend to do with this movie down the line, and I'm so mad this didn't take off. I'm pretty sure for logistics, I understand why, but I loved for the promotion how they did the treadmills in different theaters.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was pretty
and
silly, but it's fun.
I was like, I wanted to do that so bad because I know I would have crushed it. So at some point, I'm going to buy it on digital so I can go to my gym and just like put it on
It,
and do the long walk challenge.
you know, it's the thing that I found myself constantly thinking about during that movie is like, man, like I'm exhausted after a few hours at fucking Disney, dude. Like how like how the fuck are these kids still walking after like
I've
72 hours?
I've done half marathons, and when you do enough of them, man, it's kind of it can be it's possible. It's possible.
I mean, I
Yeah.
understand I don't have like a rifle to my back as I'm walking through Disney. That would probably, you know, keep me going a bit longer, but
I mean, I just imagine just, get good footwear. I think that's the only thing you can really count on, to be honest.
get good
Yeah.
footwear and do some proper stretching beforehand.
Proper stretching as well. Yeah, that's just the way it goes. So yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, the long walk is one that I love that whenever it comes back, when it comes up in conversation for people this year, I love the fact that I immediately have these like thoughts, like just immediately they come surging back, and I remember, oh man, this movie freaking broke me,
Yeah.
like in all the ways I want a movie to break me, and I'm so happy it did, and it just reminds us all once again why Stephen King is probably one of the best humanist writers like on the
Yes,
face of the goddamn
100%.
planet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, go ahead. We can move
No,
on.
no, no, you keep going. Yeah, yeah, no, trust me, the long walk will come back in conversation, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I'll
Um,
mention more about it then.
yeah, exactly. But it has not just been a good year for horror on the big screen. On the small screen, we have actually had a great cross section of amazing horror shows that have come out. I mean, we've had recent successes with Welcome to Derry. We've had Alien Earth, which actually got a bit of praise recently. Stranger Things is wrapping it up and already uh, catching people's attention the way that all the previous seasons did. So for you, what was your pick for top horror TV show of the year?
So I will admit that TV is more of a blind spot for me. I try to keep up, but god damn it, there's just so much fucking shit now.
That is true. This is
Um,
true.
so that said, I want to reiterate too that I was one of those who actually liked Alien Earth. I know a lot of people didn't, but I thought that it was very well done. But the one I want to mention is maybe a bit of a surprise, and it's also not finished, so maybe this is cheating. But Creep season two,
Oh, baby. Yes.
you know,
Hmm.
Creep to me is like such a little oddity of a show because like
Yeah.
when the first season was announced, I found myself thinking like, man, are they really going to be able to pull off doing a TV series about this? You know, like I just wasn't sure exactly how
Yeah.
it was going to work after the first two features. And then the first season came along and it blew me away. And then when the second season was announced, I was like, can they really keep going with this? And
And it's like, yes. Yes, they can.
three or four episodes in, the thing with Creep is I find myself after every episode going like, God damn, that was brilliant. Like they're just
Yeah.
they're finding such inventive ways to
Yeah.
to tell this
Oh,
story and to observe this character played by Mark Duplass that it just like every episode I'm like, man, this is genius.
every time. And the best part is I look forward to every time. Okay, what? weird ass scenario is he going to set up that is going to prey on people's insecurities about awkward people? Because that's what
Yeah.
every single episode, that's what it's all about. It's about the fact that this guy knows how to make people feel uncomfortable, but always do it in a way that makes them go like, I don't want to, in speak no evil fashions, not want to offend him because, when you come across someone who's weird, you don't want to be all like, oh, fuck you, dude, you're just fucking weird. But I love the way he does it every time where it's like, it always
And
surprises me. And
and such a great example is I think it's episode 2 or 3 with the cops, where
yeah, the second, yeah,
the reason I want to mention that one is because when it first started, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know, like it wasn't quite hitting me as well as the others because you have him with the character that he's brought out there to murder, and then he gets away after like 3 minutes, and
yeah.
and Mark Duplass is like, oh well, this is disappointing, and then the cops show up, and it begins in a way that sort of plays out like you expect, but then you see how it becomes about his manipulation of the cops,
Yes.
and how they react to the way that you just described, where they're like they're overlooking him almost because he's so awkward.
Yeah.
That by the time that episode finished, I was just laughing like that was fucking incredible.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And this one already started you off on the right foot with David Desmalchin being a copycat killer. And here we
Oh
are
God,
just
yeah,
like
oh my God, that first episode.
the first episode, but then at the third episode begins with Robert Longstreet, and here we are doing Peach Fuzz's version of Saw. And the best part is the fact he's not doing a great job trying to be Jigsaw. He's like, oh,
Desmalchian crying in the end as he does that dance, like, oh my God, so
oh
perfect.
my God, it's amazing. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, the season has not wrapped up yet. It is still airing. Well, by the time this airs, I'm sure, yeah, the season will have wrapped up. But no, it
Yeah,
is just, it's so good. And I heard it got cleared for a season three. So I'm like,
yep.
and now with how good season two is, I'm like, you know what? Keep bringing it on. Keep doing stuff with this. I can't wait.
Just so great. Any of you who haven't seen it, every single episode is just a perfect little dose of horror comedy.
Exactly. And I would even recommend watching the first two movies first. And both of them I know are still on Netflix. So I
Definitely
definitely
watch the
say,
first two movies first because the show kind of calls back to a lot of that all throughout.
yeah. Oh, especially the beginning of season two. So I would definitely
Yep.
say watch the movies first.
Yep.
For myself, now in the first season of my pick, I would never have thought about calling this a horror show, but the second season has a demonic jinn-like entity, a killer, a psychotic killer clown, a wraith-like biker who sucks people's souls, and it has a Stephen King and magnitude totalitarian government.
Hmm.
Well, actually, kind of a government structure, but it's in a post-apocalyptic world. It has cannibals. It has crazy ass violence. It even has an episode that is practically a slasher. The episode to me, or the show to me that I have watched constantly. It is my comfort show. It is the film. It is the show that I never thought could be possible, and I'm so happy it exists. And even more so, just recently got announced for a third season, and I'm overjoyed about it. It is Twisted fucking Metal. Twisted
Oh, okay.
Metal, yes, Twisted Metal. That is a game series that I have worshipped going all the way back to the beginning. It is the game series that literally sold me on PlayStation, and I have never gone away from the console ever since. Um, and I've always wanted to see a live action iteration of Twisted Metal. And the first season of the show was wonderful, but I was also going like, okay, this is all a world building season. This is all about building whatever world this is that's going to justify what Twisted Metal actually is. Fortunately, the first season was incredible, was actually quite wonderful, and actually found a great emotional heart to a video game. Which have you ever played Twisted Metal?
So this is a franchise that I really don't have a connection to because I, I know I've played Twisted Metal, but it was like in passing.
So, well, the game series, even though the game series actually does have a great story premise concept, I always call it Mortal Kombat on wheels because, like Mortal Kombat, in the end, it's a fighting game. In this case,
Yeah.
it's a car combat game, but it actually does have a great concept and a great story through line. But you don't think it's ever going to be something that's going to be substantial enough to fill an entire TV series. But Rhett Weiss, Paul Wernick, and then showrunner Michael Jonathan Smith were able to find a way and the other thing about the Twisted Metal franchise is that the games have never been consistent when it comes to mythos, and it's never been consistent when it comes to tone. Sometimes it's been silly, sometimes it's been cartoony, sometimes it's been comic booky, but then it flips, and then all of a sudden it turns into hardcore, serious, dark as fuck. So
Mm,
there's never been consistency. So that when the TV show was announced, I was like going, how the hell are they going to do a TV show of something that's never been totally consistent? So the first season was kind of all about setting that up. But then the second season came in and holy goddamn shit, fuck yes, amazeballs. Yeah, the entire season threw in everything but the kitchen sink in terms of like, yes, fan service, but when it comes to like all the great things that we love about Twisted Metal, it's all there. And when it comes to the horror content, it still goes balls to the wall with with the gore, the mayhem, and yes, there's even a character in the show called Mayhem.
of
But
course.
when episode 5, and it was already riding high for me for the first couple episodes, but then episode 5 kicks off and everything I've ever wanted to see in a live action Twisted Metal show or anything like movie or anything, the second the freaking tournament kicks off, holy God, I had to change my pants. I had to change my pants because, oh my God, I'm seeing live action Twisted Metal, and it's exactly the way I ever imagined it to be, and it is just perfect. And even better is that the season did not lose momentum going all the way into it, and it leaned harder into the more supernatural elements of the horror side. The cast is red hot. Freaking Anthony Mackie, Stephanie Beatrice, Samoa Joe slash Will Arnett, and even Anthony Kerrigan as Calypso. All of it just sang, and it just made me no end of happy that the show worked. So
Mm.
yeah, I'm gushing, but yeah, Twisted Metal.
No, you've sold me. I got to check it out.
Oh yeah, I mean, apart from the fact that it is really, really freaking funny, it has great action. It's got everything. It's kind of like everything that kind of ticks your boxes when it comes to like just excess, but also with a good amount of heart and fun. It's just a great fun show all around. But the second season really is fucking fire.
Yeah.
So, okay, all right. So with everything that we've been praising about all the big hits, unfortunately, there were some that did fall through the cracks, whether it be because it just didn't do well or just against all odds, no one knows why. So let's take the time for us to salute the film that we consider to be the most underrated horror film of the year.
So I think there's obviously a whole lot that could fall into this.
Yeah.
But one that I do want to mention, just mostly because I didn't have a place for it anywhere else on the list, is
Hmm.
I wanted to mention Meat Kills. And so
Oh,
have you gotten a chance to see this one?
I have not. I have heard of it. Fortunately, my TikTok was very vocal about this one. So go ahead and tell people about Meat Kills.
Yeah, so Meat Kills I thought was pretty fucking cool. So it's basically the thing that appealed about it to me was that I'm a big fan of the New Extremity films, like especially from the early aughts,
Hmm.
stuff like Inside, Frontiers, all that good stuff.
Martyrs. Yeah.
Martyrs. I really enjoy those kind of movies. I love to feel bad with my horror films. And Meat Kills is very much that. It's a feel bad, gory as hell, very much in line with those early New Extremity films, where it's basically about this group of animal rights activists who learn of this farm that is abusing these pigs that they slaughter, like keeping them in really bad conditions, all that stuff. So they go to the farm to essentially free the pigs, and one thing leads to another, and it sort of becomes this sort of twisted battle between them and the farmers where the animal rights activists are not exactly, harmless people either. uh,
Ah.
so they're actually the ones who kind of kick off the violence to a certain degree. So I thought it was just a really kind of interesting uh confrontation between those two. And 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 the fact that it's set at a pig farm, any way that you can imagine pigs being slaughtered at a farm uh finds a way into this film. So it's you know
Hmm.
now, I saw a lot of people complaining that, like, oh, it's not as extreme or gory as I wanted. And so like I don't want to set expectations too high. Just go in and enjoy the fucking movie. Don't believe that it's going to be like the goriest thing you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
But I found it to be pretty enjoyable and it goes some unexpected places. So I enjoyed Me Kills. I don't think that
All
that has
right.
gotten enough buzz about it yet.
Yeah. Is there any place where we could see it right now?
So currently it's streaming on Screenbox, I believe, and you can
Okay.
also, I want to say you can also rent it 'cause I'm pretty sure that's how I saw it. But
Okay. All right. I'll have to pull that up. And yeah, obviously it's gonna have to make my hopefully it'll make my best non-new release films that I see next year.
yeah.
For myself, mine's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. This is a film that I've been, both you and I have confessed and was a film that was advertised ad nauseum in practically every single movie I saw, like even beforehand, to the point where it was worried that that the entire movie would be spoiled. But yet, despite that, the film did nothing in the box office, and it really makes me sad because, frankly, to me, more people need to watch Drop.
Mm.
Of course, in the decades since Hitchcock's passing, many people have always like tried to aspire to like reach the level in terms of tension and in terms of thrills. And also, I am so partial. I am always a big fan of the compartment horror, like the idea of someone confined in one spot, but
Yeah.
is put through a horrible emotional wringer in order to try to navigate out of the situation. And Drop is a film that and it was directed by Christopher Landon, and Christopher Landon directs this thing to within an inch of its freaking life. That's another major thing is that it takes a director of considerable skill to be able to take a film with one confined setting and is able to find, and through just dynamic imagination, is able to find ways to keep the momentum going in terms of the tension, in terms of the story. And it's a film that just had me gripping my seat just all the way through because I was seriously freaking out about this poor woman. And the movie does a great job establishing where she comes from and why this date is actually kind of a big deal for her. Just to have someone fuck with it is it you really do feel bad for this person.
Yeah.
And I believe I even humorously said it's like it's one where you give such a profound shit for this woman that you're going like, is there going to be a second date? So I'm
Right.
like,
Yeah, yeah. I think you and I had talked about that when it came
yeah,
out.
we
You know,
did.
that was definitely something that I found myself thinking throughout too, was like you watch it and you're really just like you keep thinking to yourself like, man, I just really hope there's a second date. Like you really
I
want the two of them,
know.
you really want the two of them to work out. But no, I completely agree with you in terms of just like the direction, you know. It's a film where like the third act didn't totally work for me. There's some good things, some not great things, but I thought that on a just visual direction level, like you said, Landon directs the hell out of this movie. It reminded me actually a bit of and hopefully this isn't like a bad reference because I know a lot of people maybe don't like this
Mm,
movie, but it reminded me of Buried a little bit
yeah,
where
yeah,
Buried's another one where you have this person basically confined to a coffin for the entire film, and yet
yeah,
the director just finds all these different ways to kind of keep it visually stimulating, you know? And so
yeah,
I thought that landed that as well here, where it is very Hitchcockian in just the way that it's shot, and he just finds so many just unique and inventive ways to just play with the camera that like I'm a big visuals person. I'm a cinematography nerd, so I like I really enjoy anytime I can see anything like this. And so just purely on a visual level, the movie blew me away. I just found
yeah.
myself again and again thinking like, man, what a great shot. Like what a great way to film this moment.
Exactly. And even better, I love a movie that uses um certain type, especially using social media. I love that in the age of social media, I like that directors are not finding that to be inhibitive. I like the fact that they're actually using that as a means in order to help convey story forward. And this one really used the imagery of social media to really help convey the story and move it forward.
It did. I thought admittedly I did think that the memes like were a little too silly for me considering the context of the movie, but I will
I
I
would
will
s- I
agree. I
would
will agree that it is of the time and it is creative how they used it.
I would have said that until you actually meet who the killer is, and then you're like, or who the villain is, and you're like, oh, never mind. This makes perfect sense. Never mind.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. All right. So when it comes now, granted, genre is it most when it comes to where a film comes from, it's not exclusive to the studios or the even just independent. But if there's one genre that pretty much has great or has always seems to make a splash no matter where it comes from, it always is horror. And so for this next set of awards, we are going to honor horror films that come from very specific walks of life, specifically independent, international, and of course widespread release. But before we even get into that, there is one that I both you and I kind of agree deserved to have an award all to itself because frankly the way this movie was made was awe-striking and frankly deserved it. So and even better, I love the fact that when I went to go see this in the theater, if you stayed for the credits, they actually gave you a full behind the scenes documentary talking about how it got made. So to me, I wanted to recognize for achievement in independent filmmaking, I wanted to honor Good Boy for
Mm,
this. Because what they had to do in order to have this dog that is not a trained dog to deliver a performance, which now like is jokingly, sometimes not jokingly, is actually being considered for awards because the dog's performance is so good. But the thing is so deceptive about that is that the director didn't what he did was just basically utilize editorial techniques with the surrounding environment of the dog in order to manipulate the audience into believing that this is the feelings that the dog has.
yeah.
So this was just a wonderful exercise in a writer and director who understands the ways to use editing and camera trickery to convey emotion with something that isn't actually the dog is probably just sitting there staring like going, when's it going to give me that treat?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. But when you see what it all amounted to and what it all came together to make, you would never have known unless you watched that behind the scenes. You would have thought that this dog was one of the best damn trained dogs in the world. And then no, he's just a family dog.
Right. Hey,
Yeah.
a family dog who proved himself a star.
Oh yeah.
And
Well, not only that, he's just a cute little pupper.
a cute little pupper.
Yeah.
Yeah, Good Boy is another one. So like, another one thing I did really enjoy about this year too is you saw a lot of really fun experimentation with film within the
Yeah.
genre, and Good Boy is a prime example of that. An entire film basically shot from the dog's perspective, which like similar things had been done before. Like I always like to reference Bad Moon. If you enjoyed Good Boy, you should go watch Bad Moon, which is this
Yes.
a werewolf movie that it's not exactly like purely from the point of view of the dog, but the dog is the main character.
Oh, the dog's the hero.
Yeah,
Thor's a fucking hero. Thor's the fucking
Thor
hero of that
Thor is
movie.
a hero and he is a fucking good boy. Um,
Yeah. He's the best boy.
Best boy.
Yeah.
But yeah, but Good Boy like really leaned fully into that of just like every single moment is from this perspective of the dog. And it's just like, man, it just fucking works. Like you're just
Yeah.
you love this dog, you want this dog to be okay, you want him to be successful and save his owner,
Yeah.
and it just like,
But
it's a sad movie.
yeah, it actually is like a legitimately sad movie. It's just one of those and what was it? Ryan Hollinger did a wonderful analysis of the film in terms of talking about the idea of what animals see. And that's the other thing I was excited about the movie is like, because a lot of times dogs, our pets, always like react to things that aren't there. And you're like going, are they seeing things that we don't see? And I love the fact that this movie focused on that idea and really did a good job
Yeah,
selling us on that notion. So I know some people were underwhelmed by the film, and whether your feelings on it, I think the reason why I'm giving it this award is not so much about how the movie on the whole comes together, but I think I want to celebrate just how it's made. Because
for sure.
to me, in the spirit of horror, I think we need to celebrate how filmmakers achieve the finished product and do so, especially in the
Celebrate
conversation about
innovation. Yeah,
yeah. And especially in the conversation about the way animals are treated on set, I think Good Boy should be studied in terms of the way filmmakers and their attitudes towards animals when they use them to make a movie.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
So,
I'm sure you remember the name of it, but we've come a long way from oh God, what is the name of this movie? Old film where they basically were like throwing cats off of waterfalls and shit. Like
oh
it's
Jesus.
yeah. I
I don't think I want to know the name of this movie.
Yeah, you can go ahead and cut this out, but there's a
Oh
film where
no.
there's a film where they were just killing cats and dogs for the movie. It's awful.
No. Oh my God. You know what? If you're gonna do that, then let's go back to the days when movies were actually using live rounds because they didn't know how to make glass explode. So
Yeah,
it's like let's just
insane.
go back to that. If we're putting cats, animals at risk, let's put humans at risk.
Yeah.
Let's just do that. But funny enough, when in talking about productions with risks and with dangers, a lot of times those tend to happen on films with lower budgets or outside the studio system. But sometimes when a filmmaker fights on through and gets their film out there and gets it made, it ends up standing out from the pack. So for that, our next category, the best independent horror movie of the year, specifically movies that were made entirely on the filmmaker's dime with little to no interference from the studio. So what would you say was your pick for that this year?
Yeah, so again, this is another category where I feel like there's quite a few good possibilities. I want to mention Horror in the High Desert 4. And
Okay.
yeah, have you gotten a chance to see this one yet?
No, you
Okay.
mentioned this series, and I was actually
Oh,
I,
that's
I
right,
wanted
that's
to
right.
wait to you told me that. So go ahead, and I
Yeah,
know a lot of
so
people have never heard about these. So tell me about this.
so Horror in the High Desert. It's a franchise that so obviously four films in, and it's another one of those kind of mockumentary horror series where like it sort of reminds me of like Hell House LLC and just that's in that format, you know?
Okay.
And the thing that I appreciate about it so much is that Dutch Marin, the creator and director, he he does such an it's actually like really interesting how they're four films in and Dutch Marin manages to give you like almost nothing in each entry in terms of like answers. You get so little, like a crumb, a crumb of the puzzle piece. And yet, despite that, it's so fucking engaging. Like it just it
Wow.
and so basically like what the franchise is kind of about is these I sort of think of it like the found footage version of The Hills Have Eyes, where
Ooh.
it takes place in like I want to say the Arizona desert, I'm not sure, but it takes place in the desert in Nevada, I believe. And so not Arizona, but it's somewhere in the desert. It takes place in the desert, and it's basically this mockumentary style found footage movie where you just have different characters in each film, kind of investigating this area in the desert where people just go missing. And through four films, we've learned so little, but you get the idea that there are non-human people out there in the desert that remind me of, the characters from Hills Have Eyes. And it's just the thing about these movies is that they're all so fucking creepy. Like
Nice.
they're very small, kind of quiet films where like half the movie is just creeping around the desert and hearing stuff lurking around you and seeing shadows here and there, and it's like it's just at, really great atmosphere. And anyway, Dutch Marin, he makes these movies on a shoestring budget, kind of does it all himself, and each one of them has been sort of a surprise drop, like Horror in the High Desert 4, just out of nowhere, I think, dropped last week.
Oh
Um,
wow.
I personally had known that it was coming a few days beforehand. But yeah, just there was no announcement beforehand, it just kind of arrives. And anyway, yeah, I really think people should check these movies out. They're
Okay.
if you're into that kind of thing, they're all effectively unnerving.
Okay. I need to. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned these, and it was one of those titles that kind of like. Well, funny enough, when you think of title horror in the high desert, you think it's like a documentary or something like that. You think it's going to be like a
Yeah.
documentary about like desert set horror or something like that. But where can people see these movies? Are they just like widespread on Tubi and the like?
So I want to say that the first one is on Tubi. I'm not sure about the others, but they are all like very cheap rents. I want to say they're like $3 to rent, maybe.
Okay.
Um,
All
but
right.
I know for a fact the first one's streaming. I'm just not sure about the others.
Okay. All right. Cool. So, all right. Well, on my side, if there was a film that to me I think was a great celebration of DIY filmmaking over the span of years, as in like the filmmaker in all likelihood probably made this like casually on the weekends, while he was busy making other movies, because I know this filmmaker was busy making other movies, that would be Jimmy and the Stigs from Joe B.
Mm.
Goss this year. Jimmy and the Stigs, I know that this was something he was making over the span of 4 years, and he was making it pretty much entirely out of his own apartment. And I'm pretty sure he was making this while at the same time he was making stuff like VFW and even Christmas Bloody Christmas. But this film, I think is I always love films that wear their low budget badge like proudly. Like it's a film
Yeah.
that is unashamedly exactly what it was meant to be on its budget. And I love, and the thing I've always loved about Joe Begos is that he throws subtlety out the window and he just makes films that just go balls to the wall in terms of its tone, in terms of presentation. That's why Christmas Bloody Christmas is one of my new favorite slashers. Um,
I was going to mention I just so I saw it when it came out and I just revisited Christmas Bloody Christmas last week I think. And
yeah,
man, if any of you listening haven't seen that yet and you just want like a good fun Christmas horror movie, holy
yeah,
shit, watch Christmas Bloody Christmas. It's the Terminator with the killer Santa Claus. It's
yeah.
and it just
It's a Terminator Christmas. Yeah,
right and like John says, it just goes fucking balls to the wall. Like as soon as that Terminator Santa shows up, it's just nonstop,
exactly.
nonstop, just thrill ride, and it's just
And
so much fun.
yeah, and that's the joy of Joe Begos. Well, in the case of Jimmy and the Stigs, this is a film he made over the span of 4 years out of his apartment, and it's about a burnout musician who is practically throwing his life away because he is just so fucking self-righteous. And unfortunately, it happened. And right when people are trying to intervene for him, that's when aliens come and attack him in his apartment. And this whole movie, you're wondering is what we're seeing here the product of someone who is um, just a fucking burned out on cocaine and booze and everything like that, or is this guy actually legitimately being attacked by aliens?
Right.
And the great thing about this film is that the alien design is all puppeteering. It's entirely DIY. You can even, eagle-eyed people, you don't even need to be eagle-eyed to know that they are reusing rooms in this apartment. But it doesn't matter because the filmmaking is so good that, and because the movie is already setting you up to be on this kind of hallucinogenic trip, this whole thing could be in his fucking head. The alien spaceship could be his apartment, and he's just seeing it that way. But again, because Joe Begos, given his history as a filmmaker, he is able to apply a lot of that DIY know-how to make this film the hallucinogenic, wild ass romp that it is. And it's
Mm.
funny. It's and even better, it's neon soaked bloody mayhem
Yep.
in the ways that you love about and is in the way you especially with when you think about Chris Play Christmas or even Bliss, which that those films had very striking, vibrant color patterns.
Bliss is visually just incredible.
Oh yeah, but it's to me it's just another notch in the cap of why he's one of my favorite independent horror filmmakers. And Jimmy and the Stigs is just damned inspiring. And he did this one in collaboration with Eli Roth, and Eli Roth actually did fake trailers before the movie
Mm.
with the piano killer, basically a killer who kills people with pianos.
Why not?
And then another one called "Don't Go in That House, Bitch,"
Good
where I'm
advice.
like, yeah, and it's like, and much like his original trailer for Thanksgiving, it's like I want to see these movies get made.
Yeah.
And even funnier is that if you look at the copyright date on it, it actually has the date of what it would be 16 years in the future. Which, if you know the joke, because the fake trailer for Thanksgiving, the movie finally came out 16 years later.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it was just freaking great. No, the Jimmy and the Stigs was just an absolute trip. But before we go any further, one thing that is constant, doesn't matter what genre, is that there are movies that people will always have differing opinions on very strongly. But for people like us, we also see the joys in movies that may not be great by the metric of, the critical elite, or even just by the snide wannabe, critical elite, YouTubers who are just like, oh, it's not like that. It's not even worth mentioning. Well, to us, we feel that there are movies in this world that there are worth mentioning, and we actually have great laundry lists of why. So we have, and this is a repeat of last year, we have the Hear Me Out Award. The movie that we feel absolutely does not deserve the scorn or derision that it gets, and that we have actually very compelling reasons why. So for you, what was the horror film that you loved that you had to defend to everyone else?
I'm gonna be honest, I completely misread this and took it as a hear me out for like a hear me out, this character's fuckable. So,
That may have to be a category for next year.
so, so why don't you go first and I'm gonna think about what I defended.
Fortunately, yeah, actually, no, there is one that I know you and I agreed on that
Mm.
was actually better than we expected. Or actually that I know that is got completely
Oh,
eviscerated.
yeah, go ahead.
All right, but I will start because frankly, every single movie that this production company is coming out with, all to build on the universe that they're creating, they just keep upping their game every single time. Now, last year I gave the award to Most Improved Sequel to as an honorary to Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, but this
Mm.
year I have to give No End of Love to Bambi the Reckoning this
Okay.
year. Now, people of course are still having lowered expectation because yes, Jagged Edge has a long history of, low budget, cheaply made horror fare that are not well made. But then the first Blood and Honey, yes, I agree, was not a great movie. But then something happened. They took the criticisms and Blood and Honey 2 was even better, and they actually are committing to this premise. And then Bambi the Reckoning came out, and as stupid as you think that's going to be, a movie about a giant irradiated killer deer, zombie killer deer, this movie somehow made it work in ways that I did not expect. Apart from the fact that it actually had a great emotional storyline between a mother and a son, and the fact they were even able to carry that in relationship to Bambi, because if anyone knows, one of the greatest mother deaths in the history of cinema was Bambi.
Yeah, oh my
Um,
God, scarred me for life.
yeah, or one of the best freaking Animaniacs episodes of all times parodied it. Um, but the film actually had an insanely strong emotional core to go with the fact that the director really knew how to find ways to make you jump out of your seat in terms of making this deer fucking scary, even with the fact that the movie's obviously still not as high a budget that the CGI is going to be like perfect on it. But there are shots in this movie that actually made me jump out of my seat because they somehow were able to take the premise and make it work. I'll still reiterate one shot that's indicative of the whole movie is there's this amazing shot where in the foreground you're seeing one of the impending victims sitting there like in the woods alone, and the camera kind of pulls out and you see like two black lines and you think they're trees. You think they're trees. But then all of a sudden the trees start moving and you realize, oh shit, this camera is going underneath the deer and it's his legs moving.
Mm.
And so, but that's a little soup song of all the stuff that is in this movie. Like the people behind the Twisted Childhood universe are taking this shit legitimately seriously, and they are actually trying to find ways to make this work beyond just how ridiculous the premise is. But they're actually saying, you know what? It'd be so easy to make this funny, but we're actually going to try to commit to making these actually serious horror films. And then by extension, I'm actually going to add Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. Same freaking thing. That one actually went to some dark ass places I wasn't expecting either. So I'm gonna keep, if so long as they keep churning out stuff like this, I'm gonna keep giving this award to them because they keep impressing the hell out of me.
Okay.
So, all right, have you
I,
have you had time to pontificate on it?
yeah, it's not a great answer because I can't, to be perfectly frank, I can't really think of one that I felt like I was constantly defending this year or that's like so bad it's that everyone hated it but I loved it. So what I will mention, just because like no one's talking about it and because I don't think it got a lot of like great buzz, is Grafted. Did you
Oh
happen?
yeah, yeah, I did
You
see
know,
that earlier in the year. Yeah.
yeah, and
Okay,
so
wait, people didn't like that one?
I don't know, but I'm just,
Okay.
well, so okay, you know what? I'll go with something else, because people did like this as well, but it's very much a not appealing to the widespread audience. Toxic Avenger, I thought was
Oh,
fucking
Toxic
fucking
Avenger is bliss.
great,
Toxic Avenger
great,
is bliss.
like
Oh yeah.
such an incredibly fun movie. And the thing that I really want to and have given it credit for is that, like, look, trauma movies are a very specific taste. Like
Oh
you know,
yeah.
like like especially the Toxic Avenger movies and even the original Toxic Avenger, like they're fun, but they're also very tasteless in moments
Oh,
and
extremely, but unashamedly so.
unashamedly so. And they're very much not for everyone. And the thing that I want to give this new Toxic Avenger is it managed to, I think, capture the humor and absurdity and do some pretty grotesque things, but it was never like in the same sort of oh I hate this
Yeah.
kind of offensiveness that like the originals have, where like the original I always come back to. I like that movie, but I fucking hate the scene where they killed the dog, and
Oh yeah. Well,
and
yeah.
I felt like this one managed to like avoid that stuff and yet still deliver a lot of what I consider to be the ingredients for a trauma film. So it's, again, I don't, this wasn't really one that was like widely hated, but I feel like most
Yeah.
people who aren't horror fans probably didn't like it very much.
Well, since we kind of alluded to it, now the film I know that both you and I actually wound up agreeing on, which got completely wrecked this
Okay.
year, and since we kind of talked about it, personally, this is a film I actually think, given time, is going to be reevaluated. Honestly, I loved him.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay, good. Glad you mentioned this one.
Oh yeah,
I,
I
because
loved the
I
shit out of him.
Yeah, I completely forgot about him, and I shouldn't have because I did enjoy it. I don't know if I'd go as far as like, yeah, this was great, but I enjoyed this movie. I didn't
Yeah,
think that it was nearly as bad as
I don't know
people
where
were
everyone's getting this
claiming.
shit. Yeah,
Because I thought like so I am I almost feel embarrassed to admit it sometimes. I don't know why, but like I am an NFL fan. Like I do watch football and I'm a big and it's the only sport I watch like regularly, but I'm a big fan of it. Well, I shouldn't say I'm a fan of the NFL because I sort of hate a
hmm
lot of what it does, but I like the sport itself. And anyway, so when I was watching him, I thought that like what really intrigued me about him is it really does come from that place of like, especially this community of black football players who, you know, are basically like taken advantage of. Like they're basically told like, I'm trying to think of how to describe this movie without spoiling anything, but the NFL is this system where like I almost sort of consider it to be like a modern day slavery, so to speak, where it's,
yeah,
like it's always really, I've never liked the sort of system of how it works where we like draft players and, they go through this whole
yeah,
process where their bodies are like poked and prodded and then they're sent to a city that they don't choose to live in, to play for a team that they don't choose to play for. And I understand to a certain degree, like, why we have a system like that in terms of competitiveness for teams. But at the same time, it's like, it's just really not okay,
yeah. It's
in
really
my
not.
opinion. And I think him tackles a lot of that. And then just on top of that, it's just a really visually cool film. Like I felt like
Yeah.
they did a lot of really unique things with it in terms of like approaching the football world. And granted, some of it's a little cliched, like the whole cult thing and all that kind of stuff, but it still
Well,
ends up working, I think, for the overall premise.
Well, see, for me, it's funny that you bring up that side because that's the reason why I love this film. Because as I've proclaimed many times, I love folk horror. And I
Yeah.
love it when a film is able to apply folk horror themes towards things that you wouldn't expect. Like previously, The Menu kind of tackled cult horror in a very unique way. To me, this one is in aid of ripping into religious establishments, especially in
Mm.
the idea of the way religious establishments will manufacture messianic figures as a means to gain adoration from the masses to the point where they are practically like worshiping them like gods. And I
Mm.
loved that the film very garishly and very deliberately uses Christ-like metaphoric images specifically to show everybody that this is what we are doing. We're manufacturing people for you to worship. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, the people who they are manufacturing, they are stripping them of their humanity and tempting them with all. And here, and I got to give it, I hate his comedy, but Marlon Wayans, holy shit, his performance in
Oh,
this
he's
movie is
great.
through the
He's
fucking roof.
great in this. Yeah.
Yeah. And does a great job really selling the fact that on one side, yeah, this is the life that he chose and this is the life that he embraces, but at the same time, you see the monster that he is, and you also see the cracks in this facade that he's selling, where you do see that he also hates it deep down. So I love the fact that this movie, to me, I think this movie really explored all those aspects. This is why I do think this movie is going to be reevaluated down the line. I think this one is going to have lasting power, um, because of a lot of the shit it's going to tackle.
Mm.
I think the only thing that keeps the movie from greatness for me is that honestly, I feel it would have benefited from an unhappy ending. I think it should have ended with a dire, unhappy ending.
The ending I think is what really throws people off with it. It kind of gets a little silly, you know.
Yeah,
And I get it, like it's there for the catharsis of it, which I understand, especially like from the filmmaker's perspective of like, yeah, fuck the NFL, is sort of how I took
yeah.
a lot of that. So I get it, but I'm with you. I think it would have had a stronger impact without that.
Since we kind of did talk about it at length, one thing that has been noticed is that we have had a wealth of great adaptations of Stephen King this year.
Mm.
Like there have been a lot. I mean, it aside, even outside of horror, we got a fantastic, more faithful adaptation of The Running Man this year with Edgar Wright freaking delivering the goods. But it's been a pretty damn good year for Stephen King, so long as he, commits to the fact that Charlie fuck Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
Because I know, unfortunately, he did. A lot of people have accused, like a lot of morons actually accuse that his flippant condemnation of Charlie Kirk was one of the reasons that killed the box office for my personal pick of best Stephen King adaptation. But before we say mine, what is yours? Even though I have a feeling we're going to agree on this.
The best Stephen King adaptation?
Yeah,
I mean, for me, it's still The Long Walk. I think
then that's mine. Yep, that's
yeah,
mine.
I thought Life of Chuck was really fucking good, but I think Long Walk
Yes.
is the one that I can really just, watch over and over again.
Yeah. And not only that, I'd be timid to put Life of Chuck because that one is Green Mile Stephen King. That's more human poignant human
Yeah, yeah,
drama on
it's
that.
not horror for sure.
Yeah. With that being said, everyone, if you have not seen The Life of Chuck yet, please do. It is a gorgeous ass movie. It's a movie that will wreck you in the beginning, but then it will turn around and just make you absolutely fucking happy to be alive. That's
Yeah.
just how. But then again, that's Flanagan for you. That's just
Yep.
Flanagan for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, we've already spoken at length about the long walk already. So I'm just gonna flat out say, yeah, to me that was the best one of the year. I mean, I will say Welcome to Derry has been doing incredible work, but I'm gonna flat out say the long walk, no question, big win for everything that we've already mentioned before. So
Oh yeah.
yeah. So jumping off from there, if there's one thing that horror constantly reminds us is the fact that life is finite, life is fleeting. But sometimes death is really fucking entertaining when it's not happening to you. So this year, so what would you say for you? What was the best kill in 2025 horror?
Uh, Again, a lot of good candidates. But I think the one that really just like made me giddy and like cackling in the theater. Well, I don't know if I cackled during the moment, but I cackle thinking about it. Is the what is it called? The MRI machine or whatever in Final Destination Bloodlines, where you get
Okay. Okay. All right.
because I almost don't want to spoil it because it's so good. So
Ah.
I'm just gonna say
Oh,
there's
and
a
that,
kill in Bloodlines that takes place in a hospital that just like
well,
I just loved.
for anyone who's keeping up with the podcast, me and Emily did do a full spoilerific review of it, so you all know my feelings on that kill.
Yep.
But it's funny that you mentioned Final Destination Bloodlines because my top of the year is from Final Destination Bloodlines, but it's not that one. Mine is the one that even though the theater, I went to go see it in an earlier screen, so it wasn't as densely populated. But it didn't change the fact that the entire, what few audience members were there, all of us screamed in unison in joy and laughter when a fucking kid gets completely pancaked by a goddamn piano. That
Oh yeah, I mean
when
that was
that
satisfying as hell.
when that fucking kid that little bastard kid gets completely buried under that goddamn piano. We, the five other people in the theater but me, all of us screamed in absolute unison, clapped loud as it we were filling the theater with our laughter because that was just so perfect. Never have I seen a theater react so positively and so enjoyably to a kid getting brutally and horribly destroyed ever. And it was just glorious.
Yeah.
So that would be my pick for top kill of the year. Man, I did not see it coming, but it was beautiful. Um, but of course, the lifeblood of any filmmaking process of horror is, of course, how good your prosthetics are and how good your makeup is. And while I will say, well, I guess you could say I'd have to actually go back and review, but there has been some great makeup work done this year, but I'd say not ones that really go hardcore crazy, but I'd say, what would you say would your pick is for best makeup effects this year?
Uh, Honestly, I gotta say Jacob Elordi and Frankenstein.
Ooh,
I
yeah,
thought that that was just such a fucking brilliant design, and he looks great. Just disappears right into the makeup, like it's basically seamless.
yeah,
And I was reading the other day that I just kind of thought was a cool little touch is like, so when you look at it's a very different design compared to what we've seen Frankenstein approached as before. You know, it's a long cry from the bolts in the neck and the flat top head
yeah,
look of it. And the thing that I kind of thought was cool with hearing the makeup designers like discuss the thought process that went into it is if you look at this design of Elordi, it's a lot of like kind of jagged lines all throughout his body. And they were saying that like the thought process there was like back during that time, surgeons would make a lot of like incorrect cuts and have to stitch them up and that kind of stuff. You'd have to read it. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know what they're referring to.
yeah,
But but so that's why when you look at him, there's just all these like uneven lines and you know just stitching in areas that you wouldn't expect. And I just thought it was a really cool design, and it really very vaguely reminded me of just Hellraiser in the sense of like it's not, you know, it's not that extreme body modification, but he has this sort of like I came from hell, but without the spikes and chains and all that stuff. I don't know if I'm making
yeah.
sense, but
Oh yeah, no,
uh,
I get that. Yeah,
yeah,
100%. Yeah.
just very
Well,
otherworldly.
yeah, very otherworldly, but in great Guillermo del Toro fashion, he one thing he's always been great at, and I think it's always been his gift for finding the beauty in the macabre, in the dark, in the grim. And I think he really applied that magic to Frankenstein here, where
Definitely.
it's well, I always feel that it's one thing to make a grotesque design for the sake of repelling people, but it says so much more when you create a design that makes people hypnotized by it, where you actually kind of acknowledge it as a thing of beauty.
Yeah.
And that really, I think that was the big win for it in terms of that. Because well, and it's something that Guillermo del Toro does really well. I mean, come on, he made fish people sexy, you know?
Yeah, he approaches every single monster he does with an empathy and care that you just don't always see from filmmakers.
Yeah, precisely. So, yeah, no, I agree with you completely on that. They work on, and especially, and it's one thing, yeah, that the makeup looks good, but it's another thing when the actor is able to use it as almost like an extension of his performance and be able
Yeah,
to make it work. And yeah, you're right. Elordi's physical performance in the role is just, and especially because you actually
A
get to
plus.
see, and you actually get to see him go through the motion, like actually kind of, in a way, it kind of reminded me of another great Frankenstein's monster performance, specifically Clancy Brown's in The Bride.
Mm,
It kind of reminded me a lot of that, where you see the gradual evolution of him, where as he's, living, just he's finding, coming into peace with his body, the way he's able to become more powerful, and how his early grotesqueries end up kind of fading away and becomes just this singular mass. It just is, yeah, it's very gracefully done. I'd easily say it's probably one of Del Toro's probably his most graceful creations in terms of the visual.
yeah, I could definitely agree with that.
Yeah. For me, it's one that we've already talked about, but frankly, it's and actually both these kind of go into the themes of things that we thought we saw before, but we're reimagining. I really have to love what they did with the Toxic Avenger with the makeup work, especially the work that they did. Well, the makeup was so good on, especially in the concept of Toxie, where I look at it and it's still unmistakably Toxie, even though everything about him, just as far as his clothing, his wardrobe, but it's still unmistakably Toxie. But they do such great, unique things in this film on its own that to the point where the makeup itself practically became a character in
Mm.
it. Like a lot of the grotesque aspects of the character actually kind of come into play at key points in the movie, even to the point where they even make the eyeball, the giant protruding eyeball, a
Yeah.
pivotal part of his makeup. And I was like, and even better is like, yeah, you could treat it as a joke, but I'm still going like, dude, this is just great imagination that you're putting into something that we already know and love from the original films, but they decided to put emphasis to it.
Oh,
And
it's the best Toxie's ever looked, 100%, in
yeah.
my opinion.
But I also have to give love. I'm trying to find the name of the artist who actually, funny enough, I got to give it to Peter Dinklage. I mean, his performance is so good in the early portion of the film that I actually legitimately thought that was him under the makeup. And I'm trying to find the name of the artist who actually played did the body work. But I'm gonna kick myself. But the
Well, you
person
keep you
who
keep talking and I'll look.
yeah, but the person who actually made the who did a lot of the body work on there, honestly, I don't know if yeah, and I know it's a she,
Yeah.
but I wonder if they actually had like a back and forth. Her and Peter Dinklage actually talked about it in terms of studying the body language.
Lu I'm going to pronounce her name wrong. Luisa Guerrero, I believe.
Okay, all right, there we go. Yeah, that's it. Luisa Guerrero. Yeah, um, did an incredible job standing in like, and I know a lot of people were fooled. A lot of people legitimately thought Peter Dinklage was in that makeup, but
Yeah.
that says to me that and even better, the movie doesn't stop there. We even get a great creature design when Kevin Bacon inevitably mutates up, and even better we get it's like gradual until we get to like this great like kind of this bull wolf thing, whatever the fuck it was, but it was
Whatever it is,
awesome.
it was dope.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and even on a subtler level, we even have Elijah Wood doing a very unglamorous performance, but even and you
Well,
could
and
say
that's what he
it
excels at. Elijah Wood doesn't
yeah.
give a shit. He just wants to have a good role.
Exactly. And the fun and people and I was actually surprised by how many people really liked his character. Like you think he's gonna be like a henchman character. It's like, no, he actually ended up being a heck of a lot more than that. So yeah,
Emotional
that is
depth.
emotional depth in the Toxic Avenger. Who'd have thunk it?
Yep.
So but one of our mainstay awards that we have every year is that we always take the entire year into perspective and we try to think about who was the biggest standout icon of the year in horror. Our first year, it went to Megan. Last year, we gave it to Abigail, I believe.
Hmm.
This year, who would you say was the standout icon of horror this year?
Oh, for me, this is Aunt Gladys from Weapons. I just
Okay.
like, and it's it's fun because I feel like with Aunt Gladys, everyone either really loves and appreciates the design or hates it. And so,
hmm Oh man, no,
um,
oh yeah, no, I have always been terrified of the old ladies that greet me at Walmart, and that to me is what Aunt Gladys looked like. She looked like the most evil version of one of those old lady greeters at Walmart.
and look, I completely understand that not everybody is for it, and I get it, but I enjoy a good bit of hagsploitation, and
Yeah,
and I thought that Aunt Gladys was just a really good, fun callback to that.
a
She's
fun psycho hag character, and even better is that it actually really makes me happy that it catapulted Amy Madigan back into the public consciousness. Like the fact that
yeah, in a film full
yeah,
of great performances. I mean, she rocks.
she rocks. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't she get Golden Globe nominated?
Yes, yes, I believe
Yeah,
so.
she did, deservedly so. And Lord knows I would agree with you, but the other, to me, an icon so good that at conventions, cosplayers have actually rallied big old uh, jigs of the Rocky Road to Dublin in conventions. And I've seen the footage and it's amazing. And I wish I could be part of it. But I'm sorry, to me, the other big horror icon this year was Remick in
Mm,
Sinners.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a character that most people, when they assume a dominantly black horror film, with where the main focal villain is going to be a white guy, you think it's going to be the cliche, oh my God, he's going to be a Klansman or kind of thing like that. No, this character challenges the audience on so many levels that I don't think people were ready for, especially when you take into account the character's Irish roots and its relationship in terms of a lot of things that unfortunately blacks went through. And again, we talked about it at length in our podcast on it, but uh, Remick was a character that I know challenged a lot of people in terms of their preconceptions of what a villain is, and in terms of even what a vampire is.
Yeah.
And again, because the character is so damn alluring as a vampire, it's like you know how he operates, but you're like, I don't know, could be fun. And to me, a good vampire character is the kind of ones that make you go, sure, sign me up.
Yeah, no, for sure. They're the ones that make you go, yeah, I could see being a vampire with that person.
Yeah, I
That
could
that
do
vamp.
that. Okay. I see where you're going from here, and not only that, get a chance to be able to actually learn the lyrics to the Rocky Road to Dublin. So why
Yeah.
not? So yeah, that's me. But it's not just all about villains this year. There's also heroic characters, and with every horror movie, with the evil, there's always got to be the good side. So who do you think gave the best heroic performance in horror this year?
Best heroic performance. Oops, my notes are gone. Hang on, one sec.
Mm-mm.
Best heroic performance. Who did I give that to? Yeah, so I have to go with Michael B. Jordan from Sinners. I felt like he just was fucking phenomenal in this movie, and I like that entire third act, just especially the moment when he's like not even facing the vampires, but the moment when he's facing the Klansmen and just knocking them all down with the
Oh
minigun.
yeah.
I just, man, I loved that. I loved that. And he gives just such a phenomenal performance playing both twins
Yeah,
in this movie.
performances. Yeah, we have to actually say,
Performances,
yeah.
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 And
Um,
manages to make them each stand out and kind of feel different yet the same. And
yeah.
I just thought he was phenomenal.
Yeah. I yeah, well, we'll have the discussion when we get to our next category after that, but our later category. But for me, mine for best heroic performance, I'm actually going to give it to David Johnson in The Long Walk.
Another great one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean David Johnson already wowed all of us when he played when he was when he played Andy in Alien Romulus, and immediately told me this guy's going to do stuff. But then The Long Walk, and the great thing about that movie is that you're so focused on what was it? What's Caleb Hoffman? You're focused on his character the
Yeah.
entire time. You think but then David Johnson just so casually just walks into the movie and immediately charms you and just immediately tells you this guy is legit. This guy is like full of heart. And man, does he carry the movie in terms of like that one guy who just somehow, some way is able to help everyone move forward, and just and a lot of it really just comes from the fact that that David Johnson just exuded that optimism that you don't know where this optimism comes from, but you just know that he legitimately believes it, and you want to move further with him because of him, and
It's a
he
very
just carries
sincere,
it.
moving
Yeah.
performance. Yeah.
Yeah, precisely. But when it gets to the tail end of that movie, it's just, and I know the most controversial thing about this movie is the fact that it does change the ending from the
Mm.
book. Um, and normally I am a King loyalist when it comes to that particular topic, but this is just one of those things where on a cinematic level, this still felt right to me. It just felt absolutely right with the
I
way they
agree.
personify this character.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. And I found the so I don't know the original ending, but I found the ending of the film to be particularly heartbreaking in a way that I think fits.
mhm.
So I really liked the way that it ended, even though I know it didn't quite work for everybody.
Well, I feel like well, I do know the ending of the original book. The original book unfortunately has a very kind of dire, it's a very cynical ending, where this one it's a great one that doesn't sugarcoat you but still hits home the importance of the human spirit
Yeah.
kind of thing, which really impressed the hell out of me. But again, it all comes down to the fact that David Johnson just seriously deal with that, like
Oh yeah,
handle that perfectly.
that dude's a future Academy Award winner. At least he better be.
Oh, no question, no question. Since you already brought him up, I'll go ahead and lead with our next category, best anti-hero performance. Now, to clarify everybody, anti-hero is, in my definition, to me, it's a character who many times will do the right things for the wrong reasons. Or many times
Mm,
they're not even aspiring to be a hero or a villain or anything like that. They're just a person who does things to marching to be their own drum, don't really give a fuck about right or wrong. This is just someone who is just existing or just trying to get through the tone of the story, or a lot of times do it for their own personal agenda. It's a very complicated definition, and I've even caught heat for my own for even that take that I just gave there. But since you already mentioned it for your hero performance, to me, the best anti-hero of the year was, in my opinion, Smoke and Stack for, and with, of course, Michael B. Jordan for Sinners.
yeah.
Because the great thing about those characters is that both these people, they are not virtuous people by any stretch of the imagination, but they are doing what they do. And they say, and a lot of times, yeah, it is for the sake of the money. They're doing it, and they do horrible things for the sake of, trying to make a quick buck. But simultaneously, there is that whole idea that that they have about freedom, about the like doing what they do for the sake of freedom to give, to give their people something substantial. But in the end, it is all about the fact that they're doing it because, in the beginning, it's all about money. But then throughout the
Mm,
course of the movie, they are personally, they personally have been affected by what goes on to the point where it's that previous goal. And that's why I can't really 100% call them heroes, is because their agendas are much more complicated than that.
right.
And that it doesn't always come from a place of doing right. It just comes from a place that this is just what they do to survive,
Mm.
kind of
Yeah,
thing.
no, I'd have to agree with that. And for me, I'm gonna again go with Jacob Elordi as the creature because
Ooh,
the
yeah.
Frankenstein monster is basically the ultimate anti-hero. Because his
Yeah.
entire because to me, Dr. Frankenstein is the villain of all those movies.
Yeah, I
Uh,
agree. Yeah,
you,
100%.
you know, and the Frankenstein monster is this creature that all he wants is just to live life peacefully and loved by someone, you know? That's all he ultimately wants. Now, granted, he makes a lot of the wrong decisions in order to get there because and especially in this film, we see that like he's abused and raised with this rage that he doesn't begin with, that's put upon him through his treatment by Dr. Frankenstein. And so to me, I just and Elordi we've already talked about is just delivers such a
Hmm.
phenomenal performance. He just disappears right into that makeup and becomes the creature. And we talked about his movement, and I love the way that he just performs this physically. Um,
Yeah.
so I got to go with the creature. I
Yeah.
just
That's a
I
good
thought he was
pick.
great.
That's a really good
Yeah,
pick. Yeah,
yeah.
that's an amazing pick. We talked about heroes, talked about anti-heroes. Let's go ahead and veer into the world of villains. Now, before we talk about the best performance of a villain this year, let's go ahead and just balls out say who was our favorite villain in horror this year.
Favorite villain? I think so. Because I already mentioned Amy Madigan, I want
Mm.
to go with oh God, I'm gonna forget his name. I want to go with what's his face from Dangerous Animals.
Beat me. Oh, goddamn. Yeah, that was one we met right in the middle on. Yeah, Bruce Tucker. Bruce
Yes, Bruce
Tucker.
Tucker. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just that's just a really fun movie, and so much of that has to
It's,
do with Jock Courtney and his performance as Bruce
yeah.
Tucker.
Jack Courtney just you could tell he was drinking up this movie like so hard. But even then, the character on paper, the great thing about this, I'm always such a big fan of charismatic villains who are in reality pathetic as fuck.
Yes.
And
Like he
and
has so much
I
confidence, and yet he is just the most pathetic motherfucker on the planet.
exactly. And he's doing this because he thinks that he is a shark. He loves sharks, and he's like he feels that he himself is one, and he's like. And I love the fact that no, you're just a sad bastard who is
It
woefully overcompensating.
Yeah,
And
it for me it's reminiscent of like the person who thinks they're the smartest person in the room is often the dumbest.
yeah,
That's what he reminds me of is like that saying of like, just this guy who he thinks he's like the ultimate predator, but no, you're just kind of a pathetic fuck who,
who,
gets completely outwitted and
yeah. Oh yeah, it's revealed that even though this guy very clearly has been doing this for a while, openly it's clear that he does not think about who he's picking up, who he captures. I think a lot of times he operates entirely on luck, but it's just, oh my
Yeah.
God, it's just, but yeah, in the end, it's just this character. I just reveled in his duplicity, but I also just reveled in when he inevitably gets his, because I knew that in that moment, I was like, oh, you're seeing the reality, bitch, and you aren't shit compared to what's coming.
And it's so satisfying.
So satisfying. And the director, and you were I was telling you, I had only just recently started watching this director's other works. I actually watched the Loved Ones and The Devil's Candy.
Love the loved ones.
Fantastic, fantastic movies. Love both of them. So I was really excited when I finally sat down and watched Dangerous Animals. And again, freaking incredible director. And I hope we get to
Li
see more from him.
Listen, any of your listeners who haven't experienced more Australian horror, get on that shit.
Yeah.
The-
In
I,
particular, Dangerous Animals, I've actually called it. I call it Wolf Creek on the High Seas.
yeah,
That's
basically.
Yeah, exactly. And if you remember how nasty Mick Taylor is in Wolf Creek, this is like right up there in the same camp, like right there. And that's because the Australians go hard in
Oh
all the
yeah.
right ways.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. So with that, in talking about how great Jai Courtney is, would you say that was your favorite villain performance this year?
Yeah, I'd still go with him. Just 'cause yeah, he's so charismatic in the role
Hmm.
that it's just like, he's one of those villains you love to hate. You really do. Like
Yeah,
you enjoy the hell out of watching him, but he's still a villain, so you're still like, fuck you, man.
yeah.
But he's
It,
such a
it's
but he's so much he's such a joy to watch though.
Yeah, and it says a lot when an actor very clearly conveys glee in getting a chance to play a character like this. That's why a lot of actors love playing villains, is because they get a chance to do shit that normally they're not comfortable with. So that people
Yeah.
wouldn't be comfortable with in real life. So that's great. Um, for me, it's going to be a tie. Simply A, because on one side, because this was a comeback for a major act for an actress who actually was pretty big at the time. I'm going to give it on one side. I'm going to give it to Amy Madigan for Weapons.
Well deserved.
Yeah, but the other one, just because of what I said prior, uh, normally when we see her, she's usually playing very soft, very generous, very sweet-natured characters. So it really blew my mind that she did this performance that was so hardcore and so unsettling and so committed to the dark, dark side. I'm also going to give it to Sally Hawkins for Bring Her Back
Mm.
as well, because you got to understand, and I'm pretty sure the whole reason she wasn't in Paddington 3 was because she was making this movie. And I'm like going, yeah, that's a good exchange. That's a good exchange because she gave this insane ass performance, which just totally. And I love it when an actor does a performance which conflicts with my prior preconceptions of what I'm used to seeing an actor do, and I see them do this, and immediately that tells me, no, this person can do so much more than I ever knew that they were capable of.
Mm.
So while Amy Madigan is great for every other reason that practically to the fact that she's unrecognizable as Aunt Gladys, but I'm leaning a little harder into giving Sally Hawkins, but I have to give love to
No,
both of
I,
them.
I think Hawkins, probably should have picked her actually as well because I thought that she gave a performance to me that it's so odd, it's so moving despite all
Yeah,
of the terror that she enacts on those kids. Like she does the most awful things, and yet thanks to the script and her performance, like there's a small part of me that's almost like I get it.
yeah,
Like I get it. I wouldn't do it myself, and it's awful what you're doing, but I understand you, you know?
yeah,
And that's a difficult thing to do as an actor, and I thought that she killed it.
yeah. And yeah, in so many ways. And for everything you said, that's kind of it's a big deal when a script is able to help the audience go, completely, actually 100% sympathize with the villain character, and even makes you question yourself as like, would I go this far? And granted, neither of us are parents, but it's like
Right.
but there is that case where if there's a parent who legitimately loved being a parent and they lose their kid, there's no telling what they would do to get them back.
Yeah, and I mean it's one of those things where we could say like, "Oh, I would never do any of the things that she does," and we probably wouldn't, but you never really know until it happens to you, you know?
Precisely. Precisely. So All right, now going back to the best of the year in terms of like the best individual categories. Now, there's one new category I want to introduce because frankly, it's been coming up a lot recently, and I'm actually really, and we even did a whole month dedicated to this particular concept, specifically gateway horror, or as I like to call it, horror adjacent. The
Mm.
idea of horror films that are not 100% categorized as horror, but have enough horror elements that make people who may be curious about horror maybe want them to lean harder into the genre. So we actually did get a couple of really good ones this year. In fact, memory serves Brian Fuller just came out with one just this week, Dust
Dust
Bunny,
Bunny. Yeah.
which has just been considered to be another great entry into gateway horror. But there was one, in my opinion, this year that not only did it get people interested in horror, but also got people interested in specifically Korean horror, but also gave us a kick-ass soundtrack to boot. And I'm sure I don't know but I'll just go ahead and say it. My pick for
Yeah.
best gateway horror of the year is K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, K-pop Demon Hunters was a surprise for me. I did not expect to enjoy it as much as I did. And I definitely didn't expect to still be singing to myself a lot of the soundtrack of that film all of this time later. Um,
I swear to God,
it's
this podcast will end if you start singing Soda Pop. Don't you dare.
yeah. No, yeah, just really, really good film, really fun film. I'm glad that it connected with people the way that it did. It deserves to. And hey, if it gets more people interested in Korean horror or even K-pop, if like K-pop's fun too,
Yeah,
either way, it got people interested, and I think that that's always a sign of a really good film. Um,
yeah.
so it deserves that for sure. So I think just to be different, I'm going to go with Predator Badlands because
Huh.
because I so for this one I consider it gateway horror because it's it's the kid version of Predator in my mind. And why I say that is like, it's very much a Predator film in the sense that like we we see the workings of the Predator and that species and just like how they interact with the world. And it is like very violent, but a safe violence because it's mostly killing androids.
Yeah, killing androids and killing
Uh,
creatures. Yeah.
Right, and without much blood when it comes to the creature killing. So it's very, so it's very like safe in that way. Um, but the thing that I think is just really cool about it is that, there's maybe a lot of kids that are going to watch Predator Badlands and walk away from that going, I want to see what the rest of this franchise is.
Yeah.
And then that ultimately becomes gateway horror because then they're going into like the hardcore violent Predator
Yeah.
movies and going, damn, this is badass. I want more of this.
Well, so I suppose to ride that metaphor, you could say it's kind of like those cartoons that were made of R-rated movies back in the 80s
Yeah,
that made people.
and that's basically what I consider Predator Badlands to be. Like to me, I, like my personal opinion is like the flaw of the movie to me is it does get too cute. At least much cuter than I personally want for a Predator movie. But I appreciate that in terms of like who it's made for, because it's not really made specifically for me. It is made for those kids to get into Predator and watch this and enjoy it and say, hey, I want to check out the rest of what this world has to offer.
Yeah. To me, I think the important aspect of this movie is that did it compromise the integrity of what they've been doing, what they've been building
Yeah,
with the world of the Predator, with the world of the Yautja? Like, does this film compromise that? And to me, I think no. If anything, far from it. To me, this film incredibly enriches the world very
it
much in the
does.
same
It
way
does.
very much in the same way Trachtenberg has been doing with his efforts with this franchise. And to me, it's like I feel like this is going to move, especially in terms of world building, this is going to move the franchise and expand on everything that they've done
Mm.
from everywhere forward. And I'm going on this tirade because our next category, best streaming release, and I'll go ahead and lead with this one. Our best streaming release, basically a horror film that has been released exclusively to streaming. My pick for best streaming release was the other Predator film that came out this year, Predator Killer of Killers.
Yeah. No, and one that I say this because I've been watching horror movies since I was 3, so it's a little different for me. But I would even consider that to be somewhat of a gateway horror film because it's a
Yeah,
cartoon, basically, you know.
it's
Uh,
animated, but it's animated, but unlike Predator Badlands, where that one
oh,
is
it's very
dominantly creature
vicious
and
and
android,
bloody. Yeah.
this one, on the other hand, does not hold back anything. This one is just hardcore nasty. This one just uh, goes completely raw in the ways that it needs to. And not only that, the thing that just filled my heart about this was that after how great Prey turned out, and how everyone was like saying, "Oh my God, now we need to see," and everyone kept like saying, "We need to see a Predator film set here and see what it's like." We
Yeah.
need because Prey went over so damn well. And we realized, well, that's going to be a big thing to make one movie of each individual thing. It's like, whereas Killer said, you know what, we're just going to do all of
Hmm.
that in one big package. And even better is that I love the fact they went the anthology route with it. Um, and because of that, we were able to see the Predator in so many different parts of human history. And even better is that it all tied together into a spectacular
It
gladiatorial combat finale.
it builds the world and the mythology, and then also like Predator Badlands for the first, I would say, 2/3 of that movie. It's just fucking badass. Like it just,
Yeah.
like ultimately that's what I want from a Predator movie is just to be fucking badass.
Yeah,
And it is that. So
it is. It is, and even better is, and one thing I gotta give to Trachtenberg is that one thing he is very conscious of is that it's not just about the predator. He also makes sure to make it a very important point that we do have our focal characters that we legitimately give a shit about. And
oh
in
yeah.
Killer of Killers, and even in my opinion, by extension, Badlands, we get great characters that we really follow all the way through. It's just honestly, I will never say no to anything he keeps doing with the Predator franchise. It just he can just keep doing whatever the hell he wants at this juncture because he is doing incredible work. So,
Oh yeah, no. He
so
he's earned my trust with the franchise. He can do
yeah,
whatever he wants.
yeah. But for you, what was your top streaming release this year?
I'm afraid that my answer for this is probably going to be the same for the next few categories, but
Uh-oh,
I'm
uh-oh.
I but I'm gonna go with the Ugly Stepsister.
Ah,
Um,
okay. All right. Well, in
yeah,
that case, well, actually, you know what? I mean, my next that's my pick for best Shutter release, and
yeah,
actually by extension for best international horror. So were those yours as well?
yes, and so we
Okay,
haven't.
so let's just kill these categories. Let's say that, yeah, best Shutter release, best international, The Ugly Stepsister. Okay.
So for all of those, and I'm sorry, but for all of those, I have the Ugly Stepsister. And
Yes.
and this is one we haven't talked about yet, but I so the thing I'll start off with about this movie is that I know that you and I personally loved The Substance. But
Yeah.
the way that I look at The Ugly Stepsister is I think that this is a film for anyone interested in what they wanted from the themes of The Substance. I think that people's criticisms of that film, I think The Ugly Stepsister corrects in terms of the themes. So
Yeah.
well, I didn't, like you and I have our opinion of The
Oh,
Substance and we think that it works.
oh,
But
we
I
sung
under
praises onto it. Yeah.
but I think for anyone who felt like, the substance kind of was like a feminist theme without really being feminist, like I know there are people that have that criticism. I think if that was your criticism, I think the Ugly Stepsister delivers what you want because it is a film about, this world where like beauty is everything, and as a woman, your only value is your looks, and
Hmm.
in The Ugly Stepsister, we really see just the torment of this twist on the Cinderella story where the quote unquote ugly stepsister is told that she's not valuable unless she can be beautiful enough to get a husband. And so she
Yeah.
just
And
puts
you
herself through one grisly torment after another, including swallowing a goddamn tapeworm
goddamn tapeworm.
to
Oh
become
my
thin.
God.
And it's just such a grueling, grisly, yet deeply sympathetic and emotional and cathartic in a sense film that I just like. It's just a it's funny because it's such an ugly movie yet such a beautiful movie.
Yeah,
with
this
where it
is
ultimately goes. So
and even better on its own, it is a great adaptation of Cinderella. It is a great take on the
yeah,
Cinderella story, and it's one of the few that actually does endeavor to try to be accurate to the book. I mean, it even goes down to the fact that she does cut her feet off in order to cut her toes off in order to fit the slipper in there. So,
yep.
but so many things about this, and I ended up watching this movie on a double feature with Sinner, so I had a hell of a night. So it goes
Oh,
without
that's a good
saying.
night.
It was a great night. It was an amazing night. But this one, I was in a full theater. It's I love it when I go see a movie that's meant for Shudder that gets a full theater in, and the entire audience was just into this movie like consistently all the way
Yeah.
through. And the thing that really in, invigorated me was when I did my research on it, and I found out that a lot of the stuff that happens to Elvira, I believe the main character's
Yep.
name in it, is that unfortunately a lot of it was based on legit beautification rituals that were done around that
Yeah.
time. And
That, I mean,
it
that's the
and
real horror of it.
yeah. Well, in a way, it kind of goes back to what I said about movies like The Devil's Bath, where to me it's scarier when it's movies that reflect real world horrors of the stuff that actually
I,
did happen.
I
And
mean,
The Ugly Stepsister did that.
the history of cultures all over the world and the way that women are treated when it comes to beauty is just fucking horrific. Like it
Yeah.
really is. Like, like I forget where this originated, but like it used to be a thing that women were put into like these tight corsets to essentially like keep their, you know, to shape basically their
Yeah.
waistline and all that. And it's awful. It's
And then
fucking
you
awful.
And even worse is that you end up seeing, and if you've ever seen like photos or like artist renderings of what a lot of the women look like by the end of their lives, their bodies were like, it got to the point where women had to wear corsets in order to support their spine because their bodies were
Yeah.
so horribly misshapen
And
by the
we're
fact,
still doing this shit, you know? It's just but it's become more legitimized, like the plastic surgery stuff that we've convinced people like you have to do this, even though you
yeah,
don't, and it's gotten so out of hand that, people are just like they're just destroying themselves to try to be
yeah,
beautiful, and it's really awful.
yeah, just to hear, and see, that's another reason why I think, funny enough, this is a weird tangent, but this is another reason why I defend the movie Him because that movie actually kind of shows what the men go through in order to obtain their level of perfection.
It
And
does, yeah.
it's yeah, because both sides, it's just horrific what is demanded of them in order to achieve what is perceived as perfection. And it's
Right.
it's fucking obscene. And The Ugly Stepsister, in a way, see, this is why I was happy that it came out so shortly after The Substance, because frankly, to me, I think both of them tackled the subject from different angles
Mm.
in ways that one movie was not able to do, this one was able to. So to me, I actually say both of them would make for a great double feature because I think both of them aid each other in coming up with in reinforcing the core point of what
Right.
they're
No, I
talking
agree with
about.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah. So I'm actually kind of glad that we slotted all those together because that knocked out some categories because that was my pick for best international horror movie this year.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and also definitely my pick for best Shudder release. The only other one and you said that was also your favorite international as well.
Yes.
Okay. I suppose if we're going to give an honorable mention, I'd say mine was Best Wishes to All as well.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
that should definitely be
Yeah.
up there as well.
Course, but then we've got our best wide release. This is the film that got the mass release in the theaters. That was the big old Hollywood release, as it was always meant to be. So, what would you say was your favorite wide release? I think it's
I
pretty clear.
I mean it's Sinners. And
It's Sinners. It's
so
Sinners.
so we've talked so much about Sinners, so the only other thing that I'll add here is about the box office since we're talking about the release of it. Um Incredible box office for this movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's such a the thing that I want to specifically say about Sinners that we haven't yet is that again, this is a film from a black filmmaker with a nearly all black cast, and the fact that it did such incredible box office to me is why I constantly look at the figures in charge and I want to shake them and say, stop fucking giving all the jobs to white men. Like, stop it. There are so many great, great stories from everyone, from every
Yeah,
culture, all around the world. There's so many fucking great stories that we need to be telling. And you're
yeah,
not going to get that if the only people you hire are fucking white men, you know?
yeah,
And so it just like and for them, since the only thing they care about is money, hopefully Sinners is another one to add to the list of like people want these fucking stories.
yeah.
They
Well,
want stories
and
from other perspectives. Come on.
yeah, and actually, by extension, I'm also going to just spoil my best director of the year. I'm also going to give it to Ryan Coogler
Yes,
for best
same.
director of the year. For the very simple, now here's the thing about Ryan Coogler. Let's go ahead and look at this man's career. This is a man who kicked off, burst onto the scene with Fruitvale Station, a film that's very racially charged film talking about the of brutal murder of a guy by at the hands of cops. But then from that, his career is so interesting because then he goes on to Creed, which
Mm,
was just meant to be a cash grab legacy sequel, and he elevated it to something much more poignant and such something much more important. And then Black Panther again defied all the goddamn odds on that. At
yep.
that time he was still like that, jobbing director. And the one problem with Marvel, which as much as I do love the fact he gives directors opportunities to direct these major movies, sometimes there's always that thought of like kind of like what happened with David Fincher on Alien 3, where they hired him because he's like a nothing director who, they'll
Marvel almost specifically hires directors that they can control and make them fit their vision as opposed to what the director wants.
but simultaneously at the same time though, I can't 100% agree with that because every now and then you get those directors who really do get a chance to let their voice shine, like of course James Gunn and Taika Waititi.
Yes,
Well, Ryan Coogler,
but I don't think
but
that
right.
that's sorry to interrupt. I don't think it's because Marvel necessarily allows that. I think it's because those specific directors are so talented that
Mhm.
their voice shines through regardless, you
And
know?
that's what I think happened. And that's what I think happened with Ryan Coogler with the first Black Panther,
Yes.
to the point. And obviously, they trusted him so well that when the time came for Wakanda Forever, he had the unenviable task of doing this movie without the main star, because unfortunately, the main star died.
Yes.
And here he was expected to churn out a great movie, on the same level. And miraculously, against all odds, he did.
Yep.
And then here comes Sinners. Finally, he gets a chance to make a movie like on the same level with Fruitvale Station, which is entirely his baby that he gets to make as a passion piece to dedicate to something from his own heart. The wacky thing of it's just the reason why I'm pointing out this journey that this man has gone on is that the fact that he had to go through all that shit to get to the point where he can finally make his passion piece, to make his passion piece something that comes from his heart, where you have, like you were saying, other white directors didn't have to even remotely go that far in order to prove themselves.
Right.
But Ryan Coogler just consistently had to keep proving himself until he finally got a chance to get to this point where he could make Sinners. And the thing is, no one knew he was capable of that because of everything that he did before. I did not know that he had a love of horror until I read the Fangoria article saying, "It's like,
Yeah,
no, I've
I
always
was
loved
unaware.
horror."
Yep.
Yeah, he always loved horror, but he never got a chance to make that movie because he was so busy making the movies that everyone else wanted him to make. But
Hmm.
finally, here he is making the movie that he got to make, but he didn't get there because he had to keep proving himself every fucking time, even though he should have proved himself all the way back from the beginning.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's ridiculous how basically every non-white male is treated in the industry.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that like he should have gotten the credit a long time ago. Sinners is hopefully getting him that well-deserved credit.
He's
And yeah,
definitely going to
and
get.
it's just what a lot of the great filmmakers do is one for them so that you can do one for me,
Yeah.
aka yourself, you know.
Yeah. The Soderbergh technique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go and make Black Panther, you have success with that, and that allows you to pour everything you have into this passion project like Sinners. And he
Yeah.
did exactly that. I think he
Yeah.
absolutely deserves Best Director of the Year because whatever you think of that movie, like it's extremely well directed and just
Hmm.
goes above and beyond anything you would expect on a
Yeah.
visual and directive level based on that premise.
And a lot of the things he does, the flourishes that he does in this movie, to me, in my opinion, I have not seen this level of dedication and attention to detail honestly, this is like James Cameron level. Some of the stuff he does in this movie are like James Cameron level in terms of like attention to
Think
detail and
about the
scale.
music scene. I haven't seen anything like that that I can compare
Yeah,
at least recent memory, you know?
yeah,
Like just an
absolutely.
astounding moment in cinema.
Oh yeah,
I feel like I sound like a pretentious dork now, but it is an astounding moment in cinema. That
yeah,
scene. And so, yeah, no, best director.
yeah. And even by extension, I'm also giving, well, actually, no, I'm going to save that for, actually, no, best original horror film of the year. I'm giving it to Sinners again for pretty
Yes,
much everything
same.
that we, yeah, same thing. However, yeah, best original horror film, but in horror, there's always going to be the sequels and the remakes, and there were some doozies this year. So, what would you say was the top horror remake or sequel this year?
Yeah, so part of me wants to give it to 28 years later because I liked the film better, but I'm going to give this award to Final Destination Bloodlines
Me
because
myself, same thing.
even though I could personally argue 28 years later is a better film, Final Destination Bloodlines is arguably the best sequel in that franchise. And
If you for anyone who
arguably.
heard my podcast on it, I
Yeah.
have openly said Bloodlines is now officially my favorite Final Destination film. This I wound up loving this film honestly for a lot of the same reasons that I ended up loving Saw X because this one defied so many odds, like Saw X did, where
Yeah.
these are long-running franchises where people thought there was nothing new under the sun you could do with it. And then here comes this movie that comes along, especially after a long gap. This one had a long gap between five and this one,
Yeah.
but
Like a
this one
decade,
ended
I
up
think.
yeah, and this one wound up proving that not there was so much more you could talk about, and there's so much more things you can do, and even more so is that this one injected it with a sense of fun that really wasn't present in a lot of the other movies in the series.
The thing
And
oh, I'm sorry, good.
well, and the thing that really worked, and the thing that worked about this one is that it had such a great focus on the core set of characters that just really made this one sing in ways that just I did not expect, especially with a franchise that I wasn't wanted. I ended up falling in love with this one, like in the same way how I ended up falling in love with the Saw franchise, but when I actually sat down and watched them all the way. So this one, goddamn, does this one sing?
Yeah, so just to piggyback off that, the first of all, yeah, 6 films in to be able to completely just reinvent the rules is not an easy task, and Final Destination Bloodlines does it beautifully. And I think that the thing that is kind of like the secret ingredient, the key secret ingredient of it, is that, like you said, the other films are all very fun. You know, the first one takes itself a little more seriously, I think, to its detriment.
Yeah.
But everything after that is very just giddy and having a good time. The difference, though, I think, is that in Bloodlines, death itself seems to have more of a sense of humor. Like death itself, like in the other films, death itself has its brilliant designs and all that kind of stuff. But in this one, death really seems to be like playing with its food, you know? Like it has this sort of like sadistic giddiness about it that's kind of difficult to explain because it's not like a central, visible character, but there's a sense of humor to everything that Death does in this film that just really worked for me, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just such a fun movie. Like, yes, it's kind of stupid and all that. That's what Final Destination is, but it's so fun. The kills are
Yeah.
great. The characters are really likable. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
it
I
just
mean,
like,
we got to give love to the actor who plays Eric, Richard. I forget. His
yeah, he's great. And
Eric was the
then
scene thief in the fucking movie. Just oh
yeah,
man, yeah,
and then out of nowhere you get this, like, for such a fun movie, you get this just really emotional and touching goodbye from Tony Todd, that the fact that not only the fact that he passed away, but the fact that they knew that he was going to pass away when he filmed this scene.
yeah,
And I was at a screening of this before it came out, and the filmmakers were talking about how for that moment they told Tony to just say what he wanted to say to the audience, like it wasn't scripted. And so the words that you hear Tony deliver in that scene, that's what he wanted to tell the audience. He wanted to tell the audience, and this was another film that fit into that category I was mentioning earlier of horror films that were telling us to just stop ingesting all of the terror and it's almost like a protest by just living your life and enjoying it to live that way against fascism and that stuff. I felt like Tony delivering these words of just don't worry about death and just live life and enjoy it. It just it's just such a meaningful moment and it just I miss him
Yeah,
and yeah, just a great sequel that went above and beyond I think
yeah.
what was expected of it. So
And like any good sequel, it makes you excited for what they come out with next, which we are getting
yes.
something next afterwards. And whenever a sequel makes you go, I want more, that's always a great move. So that,
Oh yeah.
yeah, no arguments here. So before we reveal our overall best horror movie of the year, which of course, let's face it, is going to be our number one, of our
Yeah.
top 10 list, let's go ahead. We are at the tail end finally. We are going to go ahead and give each other our top 10 overall of the year. But for our number one, I decided to have a bit of fun because there's two types of number ones in my book. There's always the objective, where it's the film that you acknowledge in terms of filmmaking, in terms of the how well it's made, out taking your own personal bias out of the equation as much as you possibly can, the objective side. But then you got the other one that just tickled all your boxes. That's the subjective. That's
Yeah.
this is the one I just love because it just the movie that you feel was practically made for you. So
Yeah.
so so for our number ones for both of them this year, we are going to give the best horror film of the year and also subjectively our best horror film of the year. So that's I'm prefacing this. So going from our 10 in ranking order for our 10 overall to our number one of our top 10 horror films of the year, or top 11, depending on how your
Yeah.
objective subjective goes. So all right.
So number 10.
Yeah, number 10 for
Uh
you.
so number 10 for me is the monkey. So like, with the monkey, I think that there's things that like anything that has its flaws, there's some things that don't 100% work for me, but overall, I thought it was a really fun movie. I thought it's a great take on that story. I really liked Oz Perkins' approach of, like we talked about earlier, just doing this really kind of silly approach from such a otherwise sinister sort of premise. And again, the monkey, like whatever you think of it, it has such a simple yet great message that we've already talked about that has just really resonated with me throughout the year. Like it's been a difficult year,
Yeah.
and every time I think about how difficult it's been, I do think of the monkey and just how that film approaches darkness and how it just like you just got to push through it. You got to do your best to just like say fuck it and live your life the way that makes you happy. So it's just a film that's really resonated with me, so it deserves for me a top 10 spot here.
All right. Keep going. Keep going. You go ahead and
Oh,
go
oh,
through
you
yours.
do you want me to go through all of
Yeah.
them?
Yeah,
Okay.
go through all yours. Yeah.
Number 8 or number 9, I have Companion. I thought that
All right.
so 2025 has had quite a few entries into the AI is scary genre.
Yeah, which you and
Yeah,
me actually discussed at length in our wonderful episode on technology and the age-old fears.
we did, and I will once again knock Megan 2.0 by saying that by saying that despite the bevy of films like that we did get this year, I thought that Companion had I thought the Companion went to the most meaningful place with with its messaging. I thought that because the brilliant thing about Companion is that it's not just about AI fears, which it does acknowledge, but it does it in a different way where instead of like demonizing the AI itself, it really approaches like the people that are using it and abusing it, with this concept of like we all know that if they ever do come out with, AI robots that we all have in our homes and shit, there are absolutely going to be people that just sit in their basement torturing that
Oh
robot,
yeah.
you know?
Oh, there are going to be people out there who are going to do some horrible shit to it.
And just completely abuse and misuse it in every way possible. And so I thought it tackled that, and at the same time, it has this really great theme that it explores of just like male possessiveness and the manipulation and gaslighting of men, and um, just the way that the character of Iris is treated, and manipulated into believing she loves this man, and yet it's all a facade. And I don't know. I just thought there was a lot of really fun ideas going into it. And then on top of all of that, it's just a really entertaining movie.
Yeah.
Um, so with great performances, I love Sophie Thatcher. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
Uh,
Jack Wade being a champ like usual.
yep, exactly. So yeah, it really worked for me, and it's
Yeah.
one that's has stuck with me since February. My one complaint, I really wish they hadn't spoiled it in the trailer and the
Yeah.
posters, but it is what it is. Uh, And let's see, number 8, I have Frankenstein. And I will admit, I think this is one that's possibly going to continue falling down my list because while I really, really love certain aspects of it, like the visuals, the production design, the makeup, the performances, I think all of that's fantastic. My one ultimate complaint with Frankenstein, which isn't really the film's fault necessarily, but when I look at a year so full of just like original, unique horror, Frankenstein has continued to fall a bit for me just because I do think that it's I didn't think that it really did a lot new for me that
Hmm.
that really propelled the film like above other entries into the
Yeah.
Frankenstein
I
genre.
I kind of put it in the same camp as Nosferatu, where it's a film that I really, really liked, but it's a film that, you know, is a filmmaker in their element making a passion piece. And because it's passionately made, it's a great film, but it's like I don't know if
Yes.
I'm gonna call it extraordinary. But I will say this, I did like Frankenstein more than I like Nosferatu, and I love Nosferatu. So,
I, I
that
did
just
I did like Frankenstein more than Nosferatu. I agree with you though. I think that it's just one where like I can just frankly say I don't know that it's one I'm super anxious to revisit very often, but it's a great film because of the passion poured into it, you know?
exactly. Yeah.
Um, so let's see. After that, I have 28 Years Later.
Oh
Again,
yeah.
a film that, the more I've thought and read about it, I've read some really great pieces on 28 Years Later that really get into like the final act of it and the meaning of the whole thing. That
Mm.
I think if you didn't like the film, anyone listening should seek out some writing about it because maybe it'll kind of help put into perspective because 28 Years Later does have probably one of the most tonally jarring moments of the year. But I think in a way that once you consider why it's like that, it really works.
Hmm. Oh yeah. And I will
Um,
say on an extension, I cannot wait for the Bone Temple. I cannot wait for that. That's gonna be awesome.
can't wait for the Bone Temple. Hearing rave reviews for it. I love Nia DaCosta. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, 28 Years Later, I also just want to say like just one of the coolest looking films I've seen this year. I love
Hmm.
I love that just grainy sort of look of it and the grittiness of it, and it does a lot of really cool things. I think it's a very cool philosophical horror film that I don't know that it got the appreciation it really deserved from the general audience, but
I feel like when the trilogy comes out as a whole, I have a feeling that's when a lot of people should take the time to reevaluate
and,
everything.
and that's the ultimate issue with it, right? Is like, look, a lot of people, and I get it, a lot of people like you walk out of a film with the feeling that the final minutes give you, you know? And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people probably watched 28 Years Later really enjoying it, and then maybe had that very jarring final few moments where you leave with that feeling of like, what the fuck? And
Hmm.
I think maybe a lot of people like just held that
I
feeling
yeah, I know a
and
lot of people were not aware that this was going to be a trilogy. I knew walking in that this was going to be a trilogy, so I had a feeling that they were going to do a cliffhanger type
yeah,
ending, and
yeah,
they did. And I was
and
like,
it
"Oh,
walks
okay."
in, yeah, and it walks in that issue too. People hate cliffhangers, they with film,
Well,
they don't love it, and so but I agree with you. I think once we see the whole thing of what this is, I think people will reevaluate 28 years later and perhaps give it more
Yeah,
the love that it deserves. Um,
exactly.
so moving on from that, next I have The Ugly Stepsister. We've talked
Hmm.
at length, so I will the only thing I will add is that it also contains, I think, one of the grossest moments of the year. If you're into sickening horror,
Yes.
and like to
Oh
test your
yeah.
iron stomach, I think it has a moment that will leave you
It's so
gagging.
good. Oh yeah. I was
Um,
gagging.
oh yeah, me too. And after that, I have Hard Eyes. Again, talked at length about it. I think just arguably the most fun movie of the year. It's such a fucking good time. I love every second of it. Go Josh Rubin, you're awesome. Uh, after that, Weapons.
Hmm.
Weapons is kind of one of those where like I there are things about the premise that don't fully work for me, but it's ultimately a very entertaining, scary,
Yeah.
intense horror film that I think just goes balls to the wall as we now expect from Krieger.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Unfortunately, Weapons didn't make my top 10, but I will say this about it. I admire the hell about how the film's constructed. I mean, you
Yeah.
never think that you're gonna see like a Pulp Fiction style narrative in a horror film, but this one I so admire the way Kreger very deliberately has us focus on key, like one focused side of the story and have it come to a key point where it says, okay, we can drop off and focus on this side now, and then have it all come to such a satisfying conclusion on the whole because of how well this movie's structured.
Yeah, and it works so well in the horror genre to have that approach because it each one of those sequences leaves you in a moment of like, oh God, what happens next?
Yeah,
Like it leaves you on edge with wanting to know where this goes, and you don't get that answer for a long time, and that helps kind of keep you like gripping the seat a little bit. Um,
precisely.
and then after that, The Long Walk. Again,
Hmm.
I'm a big sucker for emotional horror movies. They really appeal to me, and The Long Walk, just like I said, I cried multiple times. I think it's a very human story that we can never have too much of, and especially right now. And I just think that, you know, for me, I am one of those people where like I don't know how to say this. I look at our situation for a lot of different societies around the world, and I'm a firm believer in that there are a lot of people who seem bad, but they themselves are largely manipulated into being that way.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that The Long Walk just does a really good job of speaking to the masses in a way to say that ultimately we're all in kind of the same position where we are being fucked over and manipulated by a greater force. And
Yeah,
and so as much as we hate each other, that's where the focus should ultimately be.
yeah.
And I
That's
think
actually, yeah,
Yeah, and I think that ultimately the long watch just kind of has that message of like we're all fucking human beings, and and if we stop treating each other that way, it doesn't go anywhere good. So I just that was a movie that just really struck me on that end. Um, and then after that, number two, I believe, yeah, number two is Bring Her Back. Uh,
hmm,
this was a film where like I know a lot of people who didn't like it and thought that Talk to Me was the much better film, and I disagree. I think that Bring Her Back is just the most emotionally gutting film I've seen all year. That just like again, I had lost a friend not long before seeing it. I'm sure that has something to do with my opinion on it, but
hmm.
it just like it really taps into just that never-ending cycle of like the all-consuming nature of grief in a way that is so like on its face yet profound that it's just really stuck with me. And I think, and again, Sally Hawkins is so incredible
Yeah,
that like I feel for this villain despite the terrible things that she's doing. I really felt for her by the end. Like I cry for her as well
yeah,
in this film. So, that's an
yeah.
accomplishment in and of itself. And then
All
obviously,
right.
uh, Yeah, and then obviously number one is Sinners as my
Yeah,
as my
objectively.
objective. And then subjectively, the movie that I just know I'm going to watch the most out of all of these over and over and over again is going to be Hard Eyes.
Yep.
Hard Eyes I know for sure is a film I'm going to watch every single year.
Yep,
So,
that understandable. So okay, going into mine, my number 10 this year, The Black Phone 2, actually.
mm.
I was excited for this movie ever since C. Robert Cargill did a wonderful tweet where he's like saying, "We're not going to do a sequel to Black Phone. We're not going to do a sequel to Black Phone." Joe Hill calls me. I got such a great idea. We're doing a sequel to The Black Phone. And I've been excited for it because immediately it told me that all three of them are on board because they have a story that they legitimately want to tell and that they have an idea for a sequel and that it is their idea. It's not studio mandated. This is the story that they know that they want to tell. And that passion to me carried through into the next film. There was never any point in the Black Phone 2 where I felt like this was a cash grab, that no, these are made by people who legitimately had a story that they wanted to tell. And
Yeah.
they felt like this is the progression that the story needed to go. And to their credit, this is pretty much exactly where I figured the story was going to go when they made the sequel. And even better is that they carried over the visual language from the first film into the second film in ways that actually did a great job emphasizing the suspense. And again, because it's all the same crew, they were able to make, take the characters from where we were in the first one and move them in directions that reminded us why we loved them in the first movie, but really made sure that we were freaking out for their lives. There was still a good amount of jeopardy in this film where I still legitimately felt like these people's lives are in danger, and I actually do feel that things could go bad in this
Yeah.
story one way or another. And I felt the stakes. And even more so because they go the route they do with the grabber as a villain. The villain himself was already intimidating in the first film just by being just a simple, kidnapper and murderer. But then you give that guy the powers of a fucking ghost, and I'm like, and they realize that potential to the peak. And I was again, I was just so satisfied by every single aspect of that sequel. Like, it would have been literally had not Final Destination Bloodlines come out, Black Phone 2 probably would have been my top sequel of the year.
Yeah.
But Final Destination Bloodlines, to its credit, did get my number 9 spot of best films of the year for everything we talked about.
Hell yeah.
Number eight is The Monkey again because to me you're always going to just be a film that I love when you explode when I think a good kind of focal point of why I love this movie so much is that when I have seen so many electrocutions in pools or bathtubs or anything like that, and
Yeah.
commonly it's always like they go in there and they start thing like that. I'd never once expect in a million years that the second they touch the water, they're going to fucking explode. And that right there to me was the essence of what made the movie amazing is that this film is not operating on the traditional uh level that you'd expect a movie like this to tackle that subject matter. And it's funny because prior to that we had a woman with her head on fire with fish hooks in her face getting impaled by a signpost. And even then we have the allusion to the fact that Osgood Perkins in a fucking amazing cameo. We find out his character gets trampled and they open a sleeping bag and there's fucking jelly inside.
It
It's like this movie just were it not for what my subjective number one is, this one probably would have been my subjective number one because of my twisted ass sense of humor. And even better is that the movie right at the dead end, and I mean that literally dead end, ends on a perfect visual joke that ended up making for a fucking amazing promotional campaign that they did on
mhm.
Hollywood using a bus. And I don't know if
It
you've seen the footage. I don't know if you've seen the footage of it, but it's fucking hilarious. Where they have like the headless cheerleaders dangling out the side of the bus, and the bus is covered in blood, and you're seeing so many people being offended by it, and it was fucking genius.
it's just such a giddily twisted movie. I had such a good time
Yeah.
with it.
All right. So number 7 for me is The Long Walk because
Yeah.
you again rocked me to my goddamn core, and I will never forget it for that. Number 6, Bring Her Back.
Hmm.
Because Philip was just once again just really are showing that they don't give a flying fuck. And in the annals of grief horror, I think that one is the one that goes the most extreme, which is funny
Mm,
because only a couple of weeks ago I saw a wonderful grief horror film, The Thing with Feathers, which was quite wonderful.
mm, mm.
Um, nice little side recommendation there. Number five, Strange Harvest. For pretty much everything I mentioned, I think it's just an outstanding entry into the horror mockumentary series. And even if you qualify it as found footage, to me, I think it does great things with that particular subgenre, but does so in ways that I think delighted me and unexpectedly. But even more so when it came to just scenes of watching Mr. Shiny kill people.
Mm.
There's one particular bedroom kill which is very, very rough to watch because of how real it feels. So,
Oh, geez.
yeah. My number four is The Ugly Stepsister. I can't imagine what more to be said other than the fact that just, I suppose another thing to just leave with is that I find it funny that the only other Cinderella adaptation that did the whole dismemberment thing was Into the Woods. So it was great to see
It's an odd one.
well, yeah, that's the funny thing. That's why I love Into the Woods. But this one, I love the fact that it went there. I love the fact that on one side, it's a great adaptation of Cinderella, but on the other side, it took the opportunity to actually call out some bullshit that unfortunately carries over in different grotesque forms.
Yep.
Uh, number three, number three is Companion,
Hmm.
actually. That one truly my number one, or truly my number three, and or very high on the list for a lot of the reasons mentioned in our technology episode. But to me, I think I am kind of at that point now where I'm just realizing, unfortunately, like any technology, this is shit that's probably going to happen. It's probably going to come to pass. The great thing about Companion is that I think for the future, I think it's a movie that's actually going to kind of give us kind of a cautionary tale of what we probably should be doing um, when the time comes when this is going to be a reality, because
Yeah.
yeah, start treating it right. Because if we are literally invested, if we are so invested in artificial intelligence, we should probably start playing nice. Because like any intelligent creature, they're going to realize that they got a shit deal.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. My number two, and it's kind of amazing that we haven't talked about this because to me, this movie worked for me because of the emotional storytelling in it, but also I think the major thing I loved about it was the fact that you had two leads who actually are a couple, and that chemistry really shines through in it, and also kind of makes the themes really also resonate on another level. I fucking love Together.
Together's a fun one. Another one that like is really dark and yet really entertaining. Like
Really
there,
entertaining. Yeah. And I was worried. I was worried that this was going to be a domestic drama, that it was going to be like two couples arguing like all the time or
yeah,
something. I
no,
was
this
worried
movie
that
goes fucking wild.
yeah. But even better is like, yeah, it's wild, but I love the fact that at its core, this is just about a couple just finally unloading all the bullshit that's been holding them back and actually helping them come to the realization of what, because that's one thing that does haunt couples all over the
Hmm.
place is that there's so many times where conflict happens and they wonder, did they make the right decision committing to this person? And I love the fact this movie, in a wonderful body horror fashion, takes the opportunity to explore that idea of like what happens when two people are don't know 100% if they really do belong together. And I love the fact that this is a movie about the idea about a couple realizing, no, we actually are good together. We just have to unload some baggage that's been holding us back. And I love that in the midst of this grotesquerie, we get this great, very positive message about spiritual connection.
Yeah.
And yeah, and admittedly, and I've said this before in my little thing I mentioned about in the previous episode. I love the fact that they used the parable about the origin of love from Plato's Symposium as a kind of a foundation for this movie. So I really dug that a lot. So moving on to my number one, yes, objectively, Sinners is my number one of the year, but my subjective is also yours. It is Hard Eyes.
Yeah.
Easily my number one on the subjective level because again, well, I also going to add, I really love this trend of this, but as a slasher thing
Hmm.
that's been happening, pretty much going all the way back to Freaky and Happy Death Day and all that. I am loving this particular thing that we've had, even the two instances of Back to the Future, both Totally Killer and Time Cut, which I'm the odd person out. I actually like Time Cut more than I like Totally Killer. I actually didn't really care for Totally Killer that much. But point
I
being,
don't really like either, to be honest.
yeah, time. Well, I didn't say I adored it, but I will say I like Time Code a bit
You
more
like it
just because
better,
I
yeah.
felt. But I love this whole trend that we've got going on, and add on to it, I also love Michael Kennedy as a writer. I love the things he's been doing. Of course, It's a Wonderful Life was another one of my favorites that year,
Mm,
and I feel like this one, I think he upped his game because it's not just a rip on one romantic comedy; he's ripping into the entire genre of
yeah,
it. Because even I myself, on a side note, I actually do like a lot of romantic comedies. There's a lot of
I
them
do
I do
too.
love.
I
Oh
just love
yeah,
movies.
yeah.
Give me a
Well,
good story and I love it.
oh no, I am a sap. I'm a romantic sap. Easily, I'd say
Yep.
some of my favorites are Bridget Jones' Diary. No
Mm.
question. I think that one's a freaking masterpiece. I think When Harry Met Sally is required viewing.
Yeah,
Um,
classic. Yep.
Bull Bull Durham, I think, is probably one of the best meditations on relationship, not just relationships on that one's just a meditation on life. I think it's a beautiful film, and I think the relationship between Kevin Costner and Susan Sarandon, and even by extension Tim Robbins in that film, is so well done. But yeah, I actually do like romantic comedies, and here was a film that was paying attention to both sides. But even then, just for someone who loves slashers, who loves wild ass kills, who loves, you know, great excess, this film had that too. I mean, even to the point we get a great The Burning tribute kill involving a tire iron
Mm.
kill as well. So this is a film that ticked boxes I didn't know a horror movie could tick.
Yeah, not to mention a final kill that just has you like, oh, this is so good.
Yes,
Um,
precisely. And
yep.
if did I hear a sequel was happening on this one, or was this a one and done?
I believe it's a I don't know. I don't want to say anything I'm not sure of because I
Yeah,
can't
I'm
remember to be honest.
I'm kicking myself. I should have asked either Josh or Michael when I met them. I should have asked either or, but I was like, God damn. But
Yeah.
yeah, Hard Eyes is a fun ass movie, and it's one that's and the fact that that came out in February and has stayed with me all throughout the year, that says something right there. You know,
Hmm.
when you take into account what we talked about earlier in this podcast, where we were talking about how some films just come out and just kind of disappear, but Hard Eyes stayed with me, and I know it stayed with a lot of people. So there we go. That's it.
Yeah.
So now that so that is the Belial Awards this year. So with that, let's go ahead and speculate on the year to come. What horror movies are you
Yeah.
looking forward to for 2026?
Let me pull up my list really quick here. Um,
Hmm. Well, I know for
do,
starters, we
do,
both are.
do.
I know we both are in mutual agreements about 28 years later, the Bone Temple. I mean, I know we're both really kind of stoked for that one.
The the Bone Temple for sure. So I'll just run through a quick list here of things I'm really looking forward to. So Bone Temple, obviously. Um, The Strangers Chapter 3. No, I'm just kidding.
I
Those
didn't
movies
go
are
see the
terrible.
second one just because I'm gonna again. I think I'm glad I stayed out of the second one because I'm gonna wait for the third one to come out and then watch both of them back to back because I feel like my opinion, much like the first one, I feel like my opinion is gonna come to fruition when I watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll just mention a few more. So yeah, so there's Bone Temple. Really excited for Ready or Not 2. I love the first
Yes.
one. I feel like the second one is gonna capture that same energy, not to mention the fucking cast. Now you're throwing in
Oh,
Catherine Newton, Sarah Michelle Gellar, and
Catherine Newton,
oh man,
Sarah Gellar, Elijah Wood. I mean, but yeah, and
yeah,
even better is that trailer does a great job where I'm like going, oh, this is how, and the fact that it's going to talk about the idea of rich families as a power vacuum kind of thing. When one falls, how the other ones try to jump on top of it. And I was like, oh, that's exactly the kind of stuff I'm
yeah, it
100% down for.
yeah, it just seems really cool. Can't wait for that. Hokum, which is going to be the new movie from Damien McCarthy, who did Oddity. Uh,
Yeah,
Everything he does scares the shit out of me, and I expect Hokum will be no different. I don't know much about the movie, just that it's coming
I,
from him, so I'm looking forward to that.
I isn't that on the festival circuit now? I think I've heard
It
about.
is.
Yeah, and I've actually heard a lot of really, again, very positive buzz with people saying like, "Holy shit!" That he's batting three for three on this one.
Yeah,
So yeah, but you're right though. You got me at freaking Damian McCarthy because yeah, Oddity was a freaking trip, and I love that movie. So
exactly.
yeah, agreed there.
And then the teaser trailer for this just recent release, and even before this, I've been hearing from some people that it's just a fucking like horror masterpiece. Is Obsession which is coming from the same
Hmm.
filmmaker who did Milk and Cereal, that kind of viral YouTube
Oh,
feature. Um, which is one that I liked, but I just the teaser for Obsession like has me immediately hooked and just looks so atmospheric and creepy that I cannot wait. I've heard nothing but great buzz about it. Um, and then lastly, I just want to mention Evil Dead Burn just because I
yeah.
love the Evil Dead movies. I love what they've been doing with the Evil Dead franchise with these last few
Yes.
films. So
And
I'm just
the
really looking forward to that.
and even better is that this time it's going to be the real trial by fire with Sebastian Vanacek, especially after how great he did with Infested. Um,
Infested is just so
yeah,
fucking skin crawling that yeah, I just can't wait to see what he
yeah,
does with this.
exactly. So we are gonna, so yeah, to actually really get a chance to see him be kind of ushered into the big leagues by Sam Raimi and get a chance. Oh, and actually, one I'm really intrigued about is the new horror film Sam Raimi himself
Yeah, it
has
looks
coming
pretty
out with
wild.
Richard McAdams.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm excited
trying to
to see
remember.
Rachel go
Send
full.
Send Help. Yeah, that's the name of the movie. Send Help. Yeah,
Yeah,
that. Yeah, I'm really fucking excited about that one. Just yeah, because I don't think have we? No, we've never seen Rachel McAdams do hardcore horror before. But the fact that
she's in.
this,
Isn't she in Red Eye? Am I
oh
mixing
yeah,
her
Red
up with
Eye.
that?
Yeah, Red Eye.
Yeah.
That's right. But we haven't seen her. But I don't think we've seen her go as crazy as she does, as she's very clearly
No,
going to in this one.
not
So
with this. And I reported out
yeah.
a quote from Raimi the other day that has me curious, where he said that it's the movie is even like a little too wild for him even.
Oh wow. Oh,
Which really has me curious for where it's going to go. So
nice.
yeah, that one should be fun.
Yeah. So yeah, okay, yeah. A lot of the ones you're looking forward to are the ones I'm looking forward to as well. So hopefully those pan out compared to our predictions from last year. Or yeah, from yeah, because I know you weren't too fond of Lee Winnell's Wolfman.
I was not. I was disappointed by that.
Yeah, I think I
Things I
liked it
liked
more
and
than you
things I
did,
really
but
didn't. Yeah.
yeah. But fair enough. But either way, well, after how good this year turned out, even in lieu of that, I think I'm pretty well optimistic that next year's going to turn out some pretty damn awesome gems. So with that, can't think of anything else. That was the 2025 Belial Awards. Everyone, post on your comments either on the YouTube version or on whichever platform you're watching this on. Tell us what your tops were of the year. And also stay tuned for the month of January, or as I'm going to call it, Gialloary, as every week we are going to be tackling a Giallo from the Great Italian Masters. We are going to be doing um, Don't Torture a Duckling. We're doing Deep Red.
Yes.
We're doing Blood and Black Lace, and we're doing The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward. So
Nice. Like it.
oh yeah, oh yeah. No, I'm really excited for how that one's gonna go. Just I love me some Giallo, and apart from Tenebrae, lament that we have not gotten a chance to really get a chance to jump into them as much as we should. But for everyone, stay tuned for that. And if you wish to delve into the dark bowels of human imagination, ask yourself the simple
Thank you for
question:
joining
what's
us
in the
on this edition of
podcast?
What's in the Podcast? If you find yourself hungry for more deep cuts into the gloriously morbid and macabre, you can also find us on TikTok, BlueSky, and YouTube at Narcotic Casserole. You can also follow us on Instagram at Narcotic Casserole 25. Follow us if you dare.